Hi, welcome to the Control Spoilercast. It's Matt Eads. Just a quick word. Patrons, thank you very much for supporting the show, keeping us on the air. You guys get this one early, and if you're listening to the video version, the audio version, go and check out the video version, because we have tons of video clips and things cut in. The video version is a real cool production, so go check that out. The audio is a little bit glitchy until the 10-minute mark or so. Just so you're aware, we had some technical issues in the studio that day. So it's still listenable, but it is a little bit, it sounds like a laggy Skype call, kind of. That clears up at the 9-minute mark, just so you're aware. Thanks very much for your support, and enjoy the Control Spoilercast.
Fair warning. This is gonna be weirder than usual. Can't be helped.
Hi, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Control Spoilercast. My name is Matt Eads. I am joined / blessed by Brandon / Lynch.
That's right. I'm happy to be here talking about one of our favorite games of all time. Of all time,
yes. The AWE DLC came out. Mm-hmm. We finally both played it. Remedy has said that wraps up Control, basically. That is, unless we get some surprise DLC down the line.
Right. Control 1.
Control 1.
Yes.
That's right. That wraps up the first game. And we're here to talk about so many things.
That's right. A year later. We don't have all the answers. We have all the information they're going to give us to get the answers. And now is the time to talk about it.
Yeah. So this one, like our Final Fantasy VII Spoilercast, might be a little weird. I do have the game beat for beat, so we're going to kind of go through it.
Yes.
We're not going to read like every item, paper, report, and all that stuff.
Although you could.
You definitely could.
Fackin' fantastic.
Yes, that is maybe some of the best stuff in the game.
Yes.
But it's you see it when you play through. You don't need us to just reread something to you. Yeah, so we will take it away. And like I say, this one is going to get weird. So please.
It's my fucking coffee. When altered coffee, when I open the lid, it makes a unbelievable screeching sound.
That's right. It's the can of coffee.
That's right.
It's a beverage. The beverage changes.
Have you seen the Alan Wake coffee thermos altered item?
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
I don't remember. There's a lot of them,
No,
right?
it's yes.
Because that's kept finding.
But like the explanation is like, seems to have no weird powers except for it keeps drinks hot and cold for a shockingly long time.
This is so juicy.
Yeah.
So the game opens with Jessie arriving at the Bureau of Control in New York City. Mm-hmm. She is being led there. She's talking throughout the entire game. She's talking to at first it's not clear, it's like you the player.
It feels like you the player.
Totally.
Yeah. Where
she is just talking second person. And refers to you as like, oh, you led me here. Hey, thanks for all your help.
Yes.
As soon as you enter the building, in even that opening cutscene, we see this kind of flower symbol, this motif, which is going to keep reappearing. And the first time we see it, it's built into the wall. It's like a big, it looks like a shield, like a crest above the main desk. It's a piece of decoration.
This is not the same, not the bureau crest.
No, this is not the bureau crest
with the black pyramid and everything.
So this one looks like a flower, kind of.
I remember, and I guess we should get into this. Eads has played this whole game
many times now.
As recently as yesterday.
Yeah.
I tried to sludge through some of the campaign in the last couple days. I did not make it more than halfway for sure. And otherwise not played the actual main part of this game for over a year. So you're going to be dragging me along for some of it memory-wise.
That's totally fine.
Nice.
So they name their game Control, which means Googling anything on it is almost impossible.
Yes.
So I can't find that image easily, but it is a kind of a flower. It looks like a flower, almost like a lotus.
It's like the Polaris ripple effect that goes through the screen and everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's in the center of the HRAs also. And when you look at that, you can see the blue Polaris shimmer.
Right.
So Polaris has some kind of a connection to this building.
Yes.
Polaris has...
I will say right now, had no idea. Never put that together the first time I played.
Yes, and a lot of the things that I'm going to go through of what I think is happening is up for interpretation.
Yes.
There's maybe a couple different ways.
And I feel like you've recently gone down several wormholes.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the study. So a lot of the times I'm going to be like, I'll just have to defer to you, Matt.
AWE... debate. The world, myself and the other Bureau employees who study this for a living.
Yes.
A lot of debate about AWE. The rest of it, I kind of think I actually maybe have a fairly good through line here. We learn that Jesse's here to find her brother, who has been missing for 17 years. And we also learn in this conversation that Polaris is familiar to Jesse, but left for a time. Polaris has been gone, has recently come back into Jesse's life. And Jesse's like, oh, thank goodness you're back. You've been gone for so long. Jesse walks in, nobody around, this big, empty, open building. Proceeds through, meets Ati. Ati says, you'll work for me. You can tell them I sent you. If they don't hire you, there'll be work for the axe. He says, take them up behind the sauna. Basically, and I even looked up what all these like Finnish idioms kind of mean in plain English. Work for the axe, take them up behind the sauna. Like, you know, I'm gonna, they better hire you. Or I'm gonna give them one of these. Yes. I'm gonna kill them. Is the idiom basically?
Take him on the woodshed.
Yeah,
give him the beating. And
Jesse immediately trusts him.
He's like, a janitor.
He's like, oh, Ati the janitor, friendly face in my book.
And janitors usually know more about the business than the higher ups. Jesse used to be a janitor.
Yep.
Which is a story I'd like to hear more about. But
and he also responds to Jesse's monologue, to you, Polaris. Jesse says something about how two heads are better than one, and Ati can hear it and responds to it.
Yeah.
And Jesse doesn't seem to notice. She responds in speech, like she doesn't really notice that Ati just responded to her internal dialogue.
I've done enough night shift loner jobs to know it makes us come off weird. Ati the janitor is a friendly face in my book.
Better than somebody with no face at all. Think about it. No face.
Ati is weird. We know something weird is up with Ati. There's a picture of him as you're proceeding in the video. There's a portrait of him with just his ass showing, like he's his back facing and he's mopping, which is a great portrait.
Yes.
And as you make your way through the beginning part of the house, Jesse hears a gunshot and enters the director's office to find that Trench has been shot. We don't really know by who. Nobody else in the room.
It is staged like a suicide.
Looks like he shot himself. And Polaris tells Jesse to pick up the service weapon. Jesse sees the gun, and she's like, what the fuck? You want to pick up the murder weapon?
Never do that.
Polaris just do it.
Shit. Shit. You want me to pick it up? The murder weapon? Really?
And as she tries to leave the office with the weapon, the hiss tries to affect her. And we get that live action. Courtney Hope looks exactly like Jesse, and that's unsettling. And then the kind of the red screen, and she fights off the hiss. Polaris and her together fight off the hiss.
That's right.
What is that? You can't let this happen. 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 You stopped it. You... Oh, thank you. That was... horror.
Jesse tries Trench on the hotline. Jesse sees Trench on the hotline, before she ever uses it. Because she's getting the weird message.
Well,
like,
so she always gets, like, the images. Like, I don't think those are coming from the hotline, the way I understood it.
Yeah.
Those are them, like, trying to contact her through whatever you would call a more conventional mean. But I think she needs the hotline to fully understand them. To, like, it feels like...
The implication is when you go into that menu, it's actually... Jesse's actually going to the hotline.
Yeah, because
like,
there's a picture of her picking up the phone, and she actually physically... As much as in a video game, where do you keep all your shit? She physically takes the phone with her when you leave the hotline. The phone is not there anymore.
Oh,
so
shit.
she is taking the phone with her for the rest of the game. I don't know where she keeps it. Like you,
an extra dimensional.
Sure,
we don't have to worry about that. Totally, you're right. I like slept on that. She does take the phone with her, though.
Right. So then I think it's very much like they're like shouting through the void in their broken way.
There's
like,
the phone
hang on.
in her pocket.
Hang on.
It's like a pocket dial somebody.
Yeah.
It gives you like the keywords in those little, you're like, director.
Like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Lockdown. Yeah. And so we see the first of many of these. Trench just smoking, like he's a poet, like Max Payne was.
And I wonder how much of this stuff they did on purpose. Whether it's just because it's actors A-reads, or because they're like, no, you got to be the people from the games in our universe. That
is the very last question on my notes, is there are too many repeat actors for this to be a coincidence. There's a repeat actor in literally every single game. Right. First batch of hotline calls. We learned Trench thought he was under attack, brain cloud of dementia, and exhaustion. Some kind of mental
Yes.
attack.
Something got in his dome.
Yeah. And he says, the hotline is the only one I can trust.
I didn't see it coming. A traitor in our midst. A conspiracy plotted right behind me. I can't trust anyone. I must assume all my intel has been manipulated. The hotline is the only channel I can trust.
Which is bad, because
Which
you
is
would
bad.
think for him, at this point, the hotline is probably connected to the board.
Yes.
He's probably spent a lot of time talking to the board.
That's right. And we will eventually learn that Trench has been completely swayed by the board.
Yes.
The board basically told him, you are the only real director because we, the board, made you you and Northmore.
Right. You picked up the thing.
That's right. Everyone
we
else
told
before you.
The thing, if you pick up the gun and you pass the gun test, you're fucking in.
That's right. Oh, yes. We will get back to how Trench thinks he can only trust the board, because we learn later he is corrupted. He is full. The hiss has taken him and is warping his perception. We have to go get to directorial override. Place is locked down. We can't get to the other sectors.
It's a standard first mission of any video game.
That's right. But we're in lockdown.
Turn the lights on.
So Jesse has to go find Ati to get past the lockdown. And she thinks that Ati got her in the building. Apparently, she says here.
Mä kyllä sanon perkele suoraan, that this house has a vermin problem. A bad one. They've already messed up the cooling pumps. And the power generators of a power plant, perkele. And the pensioner inside is starting to feel the band around his head tighten.
Ati says he truly needs an assistant. He says vermin in the house have messed with the power plant and the pumps. He says the pensioner inside the power plant is starting to feel the band around his head tighten.
Yeah.
Which at first just seems like a Finnish idiom.
Yep, you didn't think anything of this first time I played it.
But he literally means the pensioner, the person taking a pension from the FVC,
Yes.
Northmore, is starting to feel the band around his head, the band around him tighten, because he is in the
Right.
NSC.
It's getting hot and it's getting steamy.
It's going to blow up.
It's going to blow up.
Yes,
Northmore's in the fucking thing.
He is literally powering the oldest house. We learned that the NSC is the Northmore sarcophagus unit. And Trench even talks about him constantly in metaphor. He's a man like an explosion, an impotent storm.
Yes.
And talks about him very much like a literal power source.
He had to take one for the team.
Yes, at the
He
end of
wasn't
the
happy
day,
about it,
the
but-
director's duty is to keep the lights on.
Northmore was all about power. A man like an explosion, hungry for authority, for order, for more, until it was too much. I had to find a solution in the end, contain the situation. Northmore never liked me, but he went along with it, to his credit. He didn't really have a choice. I suppose at the end of the day, a director's most basic duty is to keep the lights on. Here's to you, Northmore.
It's very good.
Which
Once
he
you know the
literally
thing,
does.
it's very good.
And if you get all the way to the top of the NSC, once you get levitate, if you go back up, you can see a thermal scan of Northmore, a human shape in the power plant.
And there's also, because you'll find spots that have portraits of the former directors. And occasionally, without you probably realizing that this is a portrait of a former director, you just find portraits of the fucking NSC.
Yes.
In weird places.
I never thought about I never fucking put that together until right now.
Yeah, where it's like, oh yeah, that's the director. And
Because they just show the director and,
it's very good.
That is very good. And later you find a doc that says that Northmore literally made the first NSC disappear. He made it vanish with his abilities that he has. And so they built the second with, quote, spatial anchors that are designed to prevent any translocative effects.
So it seems like Northmore's para-utilitarian abilities are obviously some sort of ability to create power, to generate heat, or whatever the fuck he does. And he's a teleporter.
Yeah, I
think there would be something real cool about having him break out in Control 2.
So it's not. It sounds like he agrees to go into the NSC. It sounds like his powers. I think he might have bound an item to himself that his powers are out of control. It sounds like he himself can't control them.
Yes,
because Trench is the one who suggests it, and he says Northmore agreed. He didn't have a choice.
Right.
And so and they describe it as like the humane way to deal with Northmore,
which is really hard to find out how this is the humane way.
Yeah.
But
well, we could have tried to kill him, maybe.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
is killing him less humane than this?
He lives in the NSC, and
Hopefully they give him a TV or something.
Yeah, I don't know what he's watching Night Springs in there or something.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
On the way to wherever we're going, I forget now.
Yeah, we're going to the NSC. We got to turn the power on.
That's right. Oh, right.
We
yes.
go down into the maintenance shaft.
We find the merry-go-round pony, which we cleanse. It gives us dodge. Mm-hmm. Jesse makes her way to the furnace. If you do the side quest to burn trash for Ati.
Right. This is a great bit, too.
Yep. You find a recording of a lady talking to a furnace. It seems to be having a one-sided conversation. He says, and you find documents about how, I think the furnace is talking.
Right.
And this...
Did you ever hear it?
No, I waited.
Yeah,
and
I read something on the internet where it's like, yeah, you can really, you can kind of tell. And I stood there and I couldn't tell. And I was like, this is just the fucking internet.
I stood there for a long time.
And it'll make
maybe you need 20 minutes to stand in here.
It'll make a sound sometimes, like a furnace sound, like a groan almost, where it's where I'm like, is that it? And there's no way.
So this lady on the recording says, what do you eat? Well, I'll try to find some volunteers.
Yes.
And you learn that you are burning biological material, hazardous biological waste for Ati when you're down there. So the furnace probably eats people.
Yes. Those barrels are probably full of people.
Could be, and maybe it's an inversion on the volcanic sacrifice, right? Throwing whoever into the volcano type of thing. You also find a note later about how the FEC is forbidden from burning outdated paperwork in the furnace, but the person who's writing it is like, why can't we just burn it in the furnace? This makes no sense. Probably because if the furnace can talk, it's going to repeat all these secrets that it nails.
It reminds me of the air conditioner from Brave Little Toaster.
I've never
seen it.
Is there an altered air conditioner?
Kind of. I mean, all of them are altered. Air conditioner is a cantankerous old bag.
Jesse meets Arish in the power plant, and this is where
he's a good man.
He's a very good man. This is where we learn the place is going to blow up. He says that Darling built one massive HRA, but it must have been needed elsewhere. They don't know where it is. Proceed forward. We don't even run into Ati. We just hear Ati, who says his old enemy, the Clog, is blocking the pipes.
My old enemy, the Clock, is blocking the pipes. You need to deal with that shit. He is very clever. He's trying to sneak in. We got him caught with his hand in the fish trap. Get rid of him.
His old enemy, the Clog.
Yes.
It's a very janitor way to present that. Going back to them not having a big enough HRA or only having the one HRA that would have been big enough for the NSC. But needing it elsewhere, which we learn more about later.
Yeah, it's locking down Hedron right now. It's keeping Hedron safe. Or Hedron.
They basically need to, the security staff are basically just have to fight off the hiss.
Arish has HRAs. The staff out here has HRAs.
No, yes, but the HRA, it would be real bad if the hiss got to the NSC.
Yes, because the whole house will explode.
So I feel like I was kind of disappointed, honestly, with how that never had a payoff in a way that I thought, that's got to be a thing. It's got, the hiss have to get to that thing at some point.
The big HRA.
Sorry, not the HRA. The hiss need to get to the NSC eventually. You would think that's where they would want to go. That's what's powering everything. And they never really do anything with that.
No. And again, the idea of the hiss being this intelligence, having an agenda is... I think something that we will kind of figure out. I think Jesse's kind of imagining it because they chant. Alan,
not just Jesse. Everyone, all those research papers about the hiss are very much in it's crazy that the snipers know how to snipe and the grenadiers know how to grenadier and the healers are just sentiently forming a cluster of hiss to turn into a healing orb that can then heal other hiss. It seems like there is a strategy there.
Totally. They assign an intelligence to it. And this is one of the parts that is not clear, but we'll learn later in AWE, Alan literally wrote the chant. And again, there's this question of chicken egg with Alan Wake of, is he writing things and they're becoming true, or is he writing them because they're true, or both? But this kind of goes to Jesse's, the hero needed a villain. The hero can't just get out there and fight gravity. The hero can't just get out there and fight this force of we just got to... They're not really after the NFC. They're after everything.
Right.
It's just this force that is invading everything.
Yeah.
But because she assigns this bad guy, this villain mentality to it. It is this thing to be overcome and defeated.
And there's something about like being a human and representing the humans in the video game where it's like, oh, this is like killing people.
Yeah.
Like not killing people, but taking their free will away at very most. They're the bad guys from our perspective.
And it uses language. It talks to you.
Yes.
So you automatically are like, well, this thing clearly, I don't understand what it's saying, but it can use language.
It's like if there was giant T-Rexes wandering around. They're not our enemy. Yeah. But we got to kill them.
Exactly.
We have to because they'll kill us.
That Alan Wake stuff is going to get real weird. Anyways, Ati says Zolim in the Clog, who later we hear Northmore saying, sometimes he's an old god in the clog of fish or whatever. Some
shit, he says.
Yeah. Jesse fixes the converters, lifts the lockdown, which we learn Trench put into place his first year as director. There's no lockdown in place.
No like concept of the lockdown.
Yeah, the directorial override.
Right.
There's some ambient dialogue in Central as you're heading back to about how, and this is really interesting, different directors.
Lots of good stuff if you have the time to sit and like even like exit, like take a control point out and come back and they'll say something else interesting.
They say the new director can launch objects up to 20 feet.
Bullshit. We never recorded any distance over 5.
Obviously, you never read the P6 data.
This ambient dialogue is about how different directors apparently launch different distances, which I think is really fascinating. No previous director has ever been able to launch over 5 feet. So whether that includes Northmore or not, because later we hear that Jesse has, quote, Northmore-like readings.
Right.
A lot of midichlorians or whatever. Jesse can throw, like, 500 feet.
Yeah. If the walls didn't keep getting in my way, that thing would never stop.
Yeah, so Jesse, for whatever reason, has much more powerful abilities. Yeah, you have to choose to be the chosen one, as the board says. Jesse tells Pope finally about Ordinary and the slide projector. She didn't really trust anyone in the bureau yet. She tells Pope the Polaris came through one of the doorways to help them, and she also tells her she's looking for Dylan. Pope does not know about the slide projector, but says, everything's super classified. It's probably here somewhere.
And Jesse also says there was a bunch of terrible shit in those other doorways.
Yes.
That Polaris saved us from. Yes. Not necessarily saying the hiss, but she was like, this is just bad shit. There's tons of bad shit behind those doors.
The mother who was feeding her milk to those kids that turned into dog monsters.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. 600 adults disappeared.
Movie shit.
We don't know what happened to the 600 adults in Ordinary. They just vanished. Whether they went into the slide projector, who knows? Pope tells Jesse about P6 and Hedron. I keep saying Hedron because I've always heard polyhedron. I've never heard polyhedron, but anyways, Darling says Hedron, so I'm going to try to. And tells her to find Marshall. So basically, Marshall is in charge of the Rangers. Real bad bitch. If anyone knows what's going on, it's going to be Marshall.
Head of ops.
Head ops. And then we get a cutscene of Ati saying that he helped us. And now we owe him. And when the time comes, he will come calling.
That's ominous.
It's the last we kind of hear about that. On to the boys club. Old boys club.
Mm-hmm.
See how we're...
still bouncing.
Yeah, just seeing how we're doing on time here. Darlings, you're going to research. Central research area. Big trees. Huge tall space. Beautiful area. Like massive evergreen trees. In the intro video that says, Darling says, I've been here for 24 years, and the video goes and glitches, and he says, I've been here forever, which I maybe not telling. I don't really know the significance of it, but
there's some there, and not to say this is what that is, because you're right, there might be something more sinister at play there, but there is this kind of ongoing theme with Darling's videos where he is doing like 50 takes of everything.
And you can see him start to lose it,
where
as he like falls into decline. One time he spills the whiskey and doesn't even do it. He's just like, fuck it.
Yeah, and before he even like gets like crazy, he'll do like, and it's so good. And maybe part of this is because I'm a cameraman, but he'll do a lot of like, he'll finish the thing has to say, and then he'll look just off camera and then kind of nod like, good. That's good. All right, there's specifically, and I'll talk about it here because it's one of my favorites. There's a B-roll. You just see B-roll at one point. There's random B-roll that they've spliced together for the purposes of the videos, and you can actually find information about this. These two researchers, the guy of which is into the girl and the girl who is not into the guy, talking about how like, why do we always got to be in the background of these fucking videos? And then you'll find the B-roll thing, and it's like them awkwardly doing their thing, and then they eventually bring Darling in, and Darling is like playing with one of the fucking click clack balls.
Oh, yeah.
And he keeps like click clack, and the girl behind him is just like looking at him. Like it's like Jim from The Office, like glancing at the camera, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I was just losing my mind during this whole thing.
The videos are very good.
Yeah.
Even like Threshold Kids, similarly, is something else.
It's the little things in this game.
We got the so this is very interesting. I found a whiteboard in research that describes a shoebox from Ordinary.
Yes,
this is fascinating. A potential altered item, the whiteboard says, and you just have to read. You have to peer at this thing and read this.
Yeah. And if you're playing on a base console, you'll have to wait 15 minutes for those textures to load in.
So here's the Cole's notes. They think an AWE happened in the lab. They're not sure what, but everything was affected except for the shoebox. They recreated the event with a shoebox from home. Same result. They're not really sure what's going on. In the shoebox, there were writings. Thomas Zane, the poet from Alan Wake. In 2012, real life 2012, our world, Remedy ran an ARG called a blog called This House of Dreams.
Right.
In which a lady named Samantha posted about buying this new old house that she was renovating. And in it, she found the shoebox and basically started having these very strange dreams. Also in the shoebox, she literally found the clicker.
Yes.
The capital T, capital C clicker from Alan Wake, which is the magic light switch that she says the first time she flicked it in her house, all the lights went out. But that was the thing that Thomas Zane wrote, was like, the magic clicker will do the thing.
And worth noting for those that didn't play it, all the way back to the Alan Wake game, he leaves the shoebox with the clicker for Alan Wake. And because Thomas Zane, much like Alan Wake, is writing existence into things.
Thomas Zane wrote Alan Wake into existence, but he also wrote Alan Wake writing Thomas Zane
back into existence. Yes.
Very fucked.
Because Alan Wake, you're right, because during the game, Alan Wake also brings back Thomas Zane.
Yes.
And at the time, before Alan Wake has re-brought Thomas Zane back into existence, Thomas Zane wrote that everything is gonna just disappear. Everything involved with this is just gonna disappear. All the craziness that's happening, myself included, we're just gonna not exist anymore. I'm gonna write us out of existence, except for everything I put in the shoebox. The shoebox will survive no matter what. And now this shoebox, which did survive and provided the clicker to Alan Wake.
So is the end of Alan Wake? Did that ending of Thomas Zane's come to fruition? Was Alan going into the lake? Like everything that was Thomas Zane's final ending? Everything except the shoebox? Well, I guess not, because they know about Bright Falls and Alice Wake. No, I feel like at the time it was like pre-Alan Wake that he wrote himself out of existence. Yeah, because he goes deeper into he disappears deeper into the dark place.
Right, and everything around him does, and it...
there's an eruption in Cauldron Lake, a volcanic eruption in 1970.
Which I think is him writing them out of existence. And then the shoebox survives because he wrote that the shoebox would survive.
It might be worth just a very quick note. Thomas Zane was a poet, went to Cauldron Lake. His wife drowned. Yes. Emil Hartman, this is really interesting. In the 70s, Emil Hartman convinced him to write his wife back into life.
Yes.
He did. She came back, but the dark presence was in her. It wasn't actually her. It was the dark presence.
Right.
Which is where it led to all this craziness.
And that was what Thomas Zane wanted to write out of existence.
Yes. And to make that happen, Thomas Zane wrote, an author named Alan Wake will come, and he will do all this crazy stuff to save us all. But then Alan himself started writing. And
that Thomas Zane, you found out about Thomas Zane, and now Thomas Zane is back. It doesn't make any sense.
I love it.
But it's very good.
Like Alan Wake describes, it's a worm through time, an Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail. It is this cyclical thing that never begins or ends.
It's a flat circle. We've watched a lot of fiction.
A bootstrap paradox.
A bootstrap paradox. We're all the wiser for having watched Dark, that now we're able to understand this stuff.
I love all this shit.
Yeah, me too.
big smile on this. Let's see here. So that was all a real arc around in 2012, which is fascinating. I didn't know anything about that. Oh my god, would I have ever been into that had I but known?
Yep.
And so yes,
I love that they're taking this objectively bad game, Alan Wake, and making it like a part of this whole history that I can respect,
and even like explaining away a lot of what initially felt maybe even were just plot holes. We're like, wait,
Yeah.
if Thomas Zane writes Alan Writes Thomas, then what?
How's that gonna happen? It's because Alan Wake's gonna come back and tell you like time's not linear.
That's right.
Then-
That's how everybody knows your director.
yeah.
Darling thinks the board only controls the bit of the astral plane that is near it. This becomes important because later we will go to the astral plane and not see the pyramid.
Because you're always within eyesight. You're always within eye shot of the pyramid whenever you grab an object of power.
Yes. And if you look really far back, you can see the top of it, which is kind of interesting. We see Former on a reel-to-reel machine. One of the astronauts somehow got footage of Former, but we see this big eyeball monster that at first you're like, I don't really know what
Which
that
is like a whole weird thing because it's not cameras. It's like monitor. They have to come. They do these dives.
Yep.
And then they yank them out, and then they have to sit in these chairs, and they just build the images out of their brain waves.
The chairs that the like flying hiss enemies, the ones that sit in those weird, they look like hair salon chairs. Those are the brain
parapsychology
machine
chairs.
things.
Yes.
Yeah.
They look like electric chairs.
They totally do.
Yeah.
They look like brain sucking machines. I don't know what cartoon I'm thinking
Something
of. Something
unsettling about them.
Jesse has to recapture an astral spike that broke loose in research. These are those crazy... They don't really exist in our plane, so they're just this like crazy force that throws things around.
And kills you.
And kills you if you get too close. Yeah, I call them a brain fugue or astral spikes. Jesse finds and binds the X-ray light box, which gives her C's, the control power, the mind control power. And the board in here indicates that they choose whether someone can or cannot bind to an object when Jesse's binding to the box. And this is again reinforced in that if anybody other than the director touches the service weapon or the hotline, they die.
Yes.
So the board very much seems to have direct control over objects of power.
Yes.
Jesse meets Marshall, and Marshall is completely unfazed that the dead Trench is speaking to her through the hotline because you're like, oh,
Marshall is fucking cold as ice.
She literally said, he's like, I think Trench is dead, but he's still talking to me through the hotline. And Marshall literally just says, makes sense. Implying maybe that she knows how the hotline works.
Right. She's the director of operations.
She is?
If anyone is going to know shit other than the director, or head of operations, she's head of operations.
Yeah.
If anyone is going to know shit other than director, is your head of operations. So.
She knows about the, quote, back door into the Foundation that even the board doesn't know about.
Right.
So maybe she knows how the hotline works.
I think she is a great character for like the... I know the most now. Now that the director's dead, I know the most. But she's not spilling anything.
No.
And she's grabbing her gun, and she's like, "I'll go deal with this."
Huge machine gun with that like big circular ammo thing on the top.
Right. And she's as friendly as she. It's not like she's a bitch to you, the character, but
she's no nonsense.
Exactly. And I feel like she probably has a very big sense of like, this new director, I can handle this.
Yeah.
This new director doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know. Like she's obviously got the powers, but she's his first day in the house or however long this game takes place. I'm gonna go handle this, and she handles a lot of shit.
Yep.
And then eventually, which we waited 3/4 of a year for, is just gonna go handle whatever the fuck is happening on the Foundation.
Yeah. She's like, you handle the top. If you can save things up here, I'll save downstairs, and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
See you later.
I'd play a fucking Marshall spinoff.
So would I.
Yeah.
You go through the luck lab here. You can return here later for a side mission to unlock the gold suit if you want.
I'm going to ask this question now.
Okay.
Because this is my answer. If you worked at the FBC, where would you like to work? Because this is probably where I would like to work.
You want to be in the luck lab?
I think, yes, luck and probability specifically is... I thought that stuff was like very fascinating. The stuff where they were like, okay, now try out with the fucking horseshoe upside down.
I definitely want to be research. I definitely want to be. I would want to be like Pope's understudy. I want to have my fingers in every pie. I want to have.
Let's slow down.
Listen,
I have a crush on Emily Pope.
Yeah, no.
I want to be your understudy and have my fingers in her pie.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would like to sexual intercourse.
Yes.
No, I want to be. I don't want to be the director, but like I want to be Langston. Like I want to deal with objects of power,
or like an under Langston.
Yeah, an understudy of Langston. I want to deal with objects of power and like
work
study.
at the Panopticon.
Yeah, study like what makes them tick. How do you interact with them?
You got to put them on pedestals so they feel important.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
The more important you can make them feel, the less deviant they'll be.
This one likes when you sing to it. Anyways, here's my freestyle to theremin.
In a way, character of the year could just have been 3 control characters.
Yeah, it should have been. Man. Jesse says that Polaris likes the HRAs. We see the HRAs, Polaris with a little shimmer, and Jesse's like, oh, you really like those HRAs for some reason, huh? Weird. You know that?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. On the way to Darling's lab, so we're heading to Darling's lab. We see the duck, which you can later enter and try to track down. The duck
part
does
of a side
escape.
quest. Yeah.
It gives very menacing, like, wah, and you have to like chase him around. There's a good recording there too about how they're like, let's try throwing acid on it now. All right, now we're gonna try 100,000 volts. Now we're gonna like burn it with fire.
There's some objectively bad side missions in Control.
Yeah.
Usually find an area in a whole floor that has this issue and then like shoot it.
Yeah. Clear the mold or
Clear
whatever.
the mold, or whatever it is. Revive the plant. Like those little like just find and deal with it suck. But there are also like a lot of the Langston's Runaways missions, which is like a 2-parter, each of which has like 4 different altered items, all of which do a different thing and have like paperwork associated with them. There's some really good side stuff that if you just mainline this game, you're missing a lot of very good stuff.
Totally. And the bad side stuff is few and far enough between that even in the DLC, it's quick enough to like, okay, I shine the light. All right, let's go.
I'm probably going through this area anyway.
Yeah, might as well. They give you the fast travel to get back and do the stuff, which is nice. Just finds the HRA making machine. Yep, she goes to Darling's lab. They have to get HRA production back up is their objective right now.
Yes, people need HRAs.
That's right. They find the machine in Darling's lab. You solve a little puzzle to turn it on, and they turn it on, but the Blackrock prism explodes. So Jesse has to go down to the quarry threshold and find a new Blackrock prism. We learned that Blackrock is paranatural lead.
Yes.
And so they took huge chunks of it. There's a very funny document about how, like, the sizes of the slabs they want of Blackrock, because you see them in Firebreak, those massive walls.
They're
like,
fucking huge.
And there's a list or a document about how, like, there's no way we can cut these and move these. What are you guys fucking stupid? Like, what are you saying? But apparently they figured it out because they built all those Firebreaks.
And you like see like the fucking lift just going through, like carrying big slabs like out of sight in the background. It's like, well, there they go.
In the quarry also, there is a city that is just only mentioned. But apparently one time someone went down here to the quarry, they found everyone was just staring at the city and could not be like roused, had to be physically dragged out of the threshold until they came back to it.
And do we, like, for me, I assume the city is in the same threshold as the quarry.
Yeah, so did I.
Like, I feel like that's one area, which, again, like everything on my second playthrough, after having seen all the content from Control 1, I was just like, I hope they deal with this in Control 2. I hope they deal with this in Control 2. I'd like to know what the city is.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of stuff there.
You leave a couple mysteries here and there.
It's true.
But I think the city is in the quarry, unless we've never seen thresholds bleeding into other thresholds.
Right. And they say the
knows?
quarry is a very stable threshold.
Yeah.
It's one that they've had for a very long time. Thresholds are basically, there's a document where they explain it as like, they're on, like, realities are on different wavelengths.
Yeah.
And every now and then those wavelengths, as they move, they hit the same wavelength, and then they kind of crash into each other.
They leak into the oldest house, Darling says.
Right. And for a lot of them, it seems like it's very brief. It's like, comes in, something fucking terrible happens, and then the wavelengths change again. But the quarry, it seems like, has been there for long enough to make the firewalls, or the fire breaks, which...
Seems like they're keeping it open.
Yes.
They have like kind of learned to stabilize certain thresholds, and they want to close other ones, but aren't sure how. Like the clock,
yes,
the clock
one is there, and they can't figure out how to get rid of it.
Spilling clocks into the oldest house.
I love, this is as good a place to bring this up as any, because it's kind of about the clock, where the clocks. Some force was bleeding into through the threshold into the oldest house, and just found the first item it could, and was like, "This is what I need to be."
A clock.
And, clock. So there's just thousands of clocks, and it is laugh out loud funny. Some of the corners you turn, and then just be like, "Oh, there's fucking 10,000 clocks."
You are
in this
literally
room.
swimming through clocks at parts, and like doorways are bursting open, and clocks are shooting out as the rooms are filling with clocks.
And you're always like, because you get in fights here, and you just always know every time you hit like throw. You're grabbing a clock and you're just throwing clocks at them from every which way. And I love, this brings me to my point, which is my favorite part of Control is like like with this particular incident, they're like, we had to take everyone and move them to a different floor.
Yep.
And like,
we just closed that office off, and that was all we could do.
Just them trying to run a bureau with all this shit going on, and kind of the funny things that they're like, oh, it happens here. There's a guy who's just fucking losing his mind about the pneumatic tube system, because he's like, We fucking like I want my budget
It's his expense report.
Yeah, my expense report. I want this put on my paycheck, and I just keep putting it in the tube, and then the house shifts, and God knows where it goes. Why are we fucking using these tubes?
Why do we use these things that just fire our mail into other dimensions?
Yeah, and he says like wherever the fuck or fucking knows where. Oh, it's so funny, and I just love this idea like where like a bureau always has these complainers.
Yeah.
And just the things that they're complaining about seem so mundane because of how they react to them. But for us, they're like, that's so fucked.
In the context of the supernatural, yeah, the collision of like bureaucracy and supernatural is hilarious to me. It's very like Portal almost. It's very like Aperture Science in a way.
Where it's like, this is just how corporate structure decided to handle this fucking unbelievable thing that's happening.
There's a great memo about how an office's bathroom just shifted away. It just was gone. And the memo is like, can we at least fucking find it? Like, what are we going to do? We can't go down 12 floors to pee or whatever.
And then there's this guy who's taking inventory on, like, every piece of an airplane where they're like, you got to check every fucking nut and bolt. And he's
6
like,
million pieces in an airplane,
you know
turns out.
how many pieces are on an airplane? Because I do.
Yep. Human teeth.
It's all fucking, it's so well done.
That person who had a story that was like, I got 3,700 boxes, you know, in each one, a single human tooth.
That stuff's so good, and it's my favorite part of Control. Like, I love the whole weird fiction side of it. I love it, but the way they kind of stuck this all and the correspondence back and forth with people are just like, I laughed at almost every single one. The correspondence specifically, because they're always just two people complaining about some dumb thing that is only dumb because it is in this fucking weird world.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yes.
Darling, we learn Darling has built one large-scale HRA we heard about that is, quote, there now, not really knowing where there is.
Yes.
He seems paranoid, though, in his video. He says, we're about to be exposed to a different type of resonance.
Hedron is communicating with me. He's trying to warn me of something imminent. I've been using every known method to analyze the data. Exposing myself to it. I'm seeing things and overcome by compulsion. It's not just data, it's protection. It's benign. We are about to be exposed to a different kind of resonance. Hostile, viral, invasive resonance. That's what the Hedron resonance amplifiers are for. Taking the protection Hedron can provide us and keeping us from being wiped out.
At some point, he gives the code to his thing. He said the code, because Emily interrupts him in the video. It's like, what's the code of the whatever lab?
Oh, yes, he says
like,
it. Yeah.
Oh,
says it off camera.
It's 665.
Yeah.
Neighbor of the beast.
Yeah. Get it?
Get it? Yeah. I don't know if that's here, but that's going to come up later.
Okay.
Because the board will say 665 in a way that is very unusual.
That's what the Black Rock Line fire breaks are about. The panopticon container cells.
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but I need the code for the quarry elevator.
Oh, Emily. The code's Black Rock 665. Neighbor of the beast. Get it? We can do that again if you...
Darling says that Hedron has communicated with him, warned him that the hiss is coming.
Yes.
And I'm just going to read this now because I actually don't know where it falls, and I apologize for plopping this in anywhere. But there is you get a board call where they're teaching you about it seems like they're just teaching you that they control the board, the objects of power, and they're like, we control the reins. We objects of power have they say objects of power are holders /665, which Darling earlier says neighbor of the beast,
right?
And then there's a whole conversation we're going to go into later, but keep that 665 thing in mind,
yes,
because I will put to you that it is tied somehow to Chester Bless and the Blessed Organization.
Okay. In a way that
See
we're
if I can
worried
tie this all around.
In a way that we're worried that Chester Bless is controlling the board, or something.
Maybe not
so
controlling,
sinister.
but an agent of.
Okay.
Yeah, working for the board.
Gotcha.
And that takes us into Threshold, which is the name of this next part. You do the... Let's actually stop for a quick break here. This would be a good spot for a quick little break. We'll come back and keep talking Control after this. Let's come on back here. We are in the Threshold. I believe the mission is called Threshold.
Threshold.
We'll learn all these thresholds. You do the Ranger training course. You got to beat it in 30 seconds. It took me a lot of fucking tries the first time.
Like more than it should have.
In a way that I'm like, I'm the director with fucking superpowers. You're telling me the Ranger... I've seen the Rangers fight. They cannot do this in 30 seconds.
And fucking the guys who had to fucking throw these boxes 5 feet, who could only throw these boxes 5 feet into these things, they would have had a real struggle. I can throw them as far as I want.
Yeah, that Ranger course, fucking hard, it turns out. Some very good things in there where the guy who does the VO didn't realize that was the take they were going to use. And he's like, well, I want to fucking record it because he's giving it like, all right,
it's like
Ranger.
Threatening legal action,
whenever you're ready. Yeah.
He's like, I didn't realize that we were going to use those takes.
So I just read this. Welcome to the Ranger Field Training course. The course must be completed in the specified amount of time. When you're ready to start, press the button. Is that all, or...?
I always did love obstacle courses.
You finish the course, and then you find the safe, which you bind. It's an object of power that gives you the shield.
Yes.
And this is from the write-up. X-rays of the safe show that there's something inside of it, and blood leaks out from underneath the door.
The thing inside of it is moving fast enough that you cannot capture a still image of it.
Yeah, the images are always blurred, so whatever's inside leaking blood is moving.
That's fucked. This is another thing that Control does so well, is it's like, they'll never tell you what that is.
No.
They
should. I never want to know.
Yeah.
Jesse goes through the motel again to open up the Black Rock threshold. She can hear people outside the front door of the motel this time, which is interesting. People are like, it must be closed, honey. I don't know. The only time that ever happens.
Yeah.
She makes her way to the Atlas chamber, which is an area of the house that has it is a construct of the house, the Atlas stone.
Right.
No one really knows what it does. Initially, they thought maybe it was like a model of the house, kind of. Yeah, but it doesn't shift within the house.
Right.
Nobody knows what it does.
And no one's ever seen it shift.
But it does shift.
It does shift. And it, even when they're recording it, will only shift between frames.
Yes, between frames. Yes, here we go. This is where we hear there are areas in the oldest house where when the frequencies are right, other dimensions leak in. Blackrock blocks most of these frequencies. That's why we use it to block everything. Pope wants to make knives out of it. Pope is like, I told Darling we should make weapons, guns, ropes, knives.
She's fucking ahead of it.
Yeah.
She knows what's coming.
Jesse makes her way to the quarry. We find the prisms. We get that report about the team who's just silently staring towards the city, which I think is super interesting. Jesse again comments on how the HRAs, the prisms, they must mean something to Polaris. And I wrote down here, what is Polaris' link to the quarry, I wonder?
Why do we think Polaris has a link to the quarry?
Yeah, like why the Blackrock prisms? Is that just kind of it just happens to be a material that works? Is there some kind of a connection? Like we don't
I never got the feeling that Polaris had any particular connection to the quarry.
You just happen to need the prisms to make the thing that amplifies her resonance.
Right, yeah. I always thought it was kind of a separate element that, an amplification thing.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Could totally be wrong.
I think I'm with you. Just poking just checking. Just throwing against the wall. Jesse said, Marshall tells Jesse Dylan is in the Bureau and is P6. He was being groomed to be the future director as he had abilities beyond anything they've ever seen.
Yes.
And Jesse says,
of course he did. We found you together. We share a bond. Are you with him now?
Which, that was, I think, the moment that I was wondering, I wonder if Polaris can be multiple places at once.
Yeah, so was I.
But it seemed, the fact that Polaris disappeared when she was with Jesse.
And then later disappears from Dylan.
Right, makes you think that she's only capable of being one place at any one time.
Totally. Jesse accuses Polaris of knowing and intentionally keeping Dylan away from her. And we know that Jesse hasn't heard from Polaris, again, from the beginning of the game, hasn't heard from Polaris in a long time. It brings us to My Brother's Keeper. Jesse's making her way up to the Panopticon. There is a weird... So I put this on Twitter today. There is a weird yellow light. There is the yellow light of the light cord. Did you see my tweet today?
Yeah.
It's just in a...
That same, like...
area of the house.
Exact shade of yellow.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a shelter there. It's coming down through like a roof. Kind of. It looks like a skylight, but it's just that white. Maybe it's a light. You're not sure. Like, you can't see above it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just regular light through the other ones. There's yellow light coming down through that one spot, and it's shining on a shelter, and like I don't know if that's a bug. I don't know if
it's just a little something for you to wonder about.
Yeah, I have no idea, but there's a weird yellow light there that I'm so fucking obsessed with.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, podcast at talkingreckless.com. Holla at your boy. You pass a mold room on the way. We learned that the mold is spreading into a house from a threshold. Jesse enters the ocean view again. This time you can hear someone screaming in 223, and there's blood under the door. Jesse meets Langston. This is where we get our great Panopticon Cell 69 joke, where the two rangers behind Langston just refuse to laugh. Like, I don't see what's funny about that. We get
almost everything Langston says. Like, if not everything Langston says, everything that he delivers is just like, I'm laugh out loud the whole time.
Yeah,
the whole conversation.
He's like this dude that I've known for like 15 years. He's like my best buddy. He just talks real straight with me.
And he gets the altered items in a way that I wish I got the altered items. Where he's just like, oh, you just like we've said countless times, you got to sing to him.
Yeah, they're like
put him on
pets
a
to
pedestal, so they feel important. There's a moment which we'll get to. We'll get to it now because it's just a side quest. But the fridge thing.
Yes.
There's a guy on the way up.
Philip.
And he has to stare at the fridge because if he doesn't stare at the fridge, something terrible will happen.
Someone has to always be staring at the fridge.
Right, and we've seen letters or documents at this point that said this mom had a kid, and the kid was staring at the fridge one day, and then he was just dead. And the mom had to sell the fridge. Couldn't get the drawings off of it.
I think the hotel the hotel collapsed around the fridge.
I think that was the second guy.
Okay, the same fridge, though.
Yes, same fridge. I think she sells it to a guy, and then the guy's hotel collapses, and the fridge is fine.
It was like the Grand something hotel.
That's when the bureau gets it.
Hello? Is anyone there?
What are you doing in there?
Oh, thank God. Look, someone has to watch this object at all times, or it deviates. My shift replacement never showed up. Can you help me?
Damn. I can't. I'm sorry. There's an emergency. I'll come back. I promise.
Okay. Just don't forget. I can't stare at this thing much longer.
And there's a great moment when you're talking to this guy who's staring at the fridge. He's like, go tell Langston that I got to get out of this fucking room. And you go down and you tell Langston, and you're like, yeah, this guy staring up the fridge.
Fridge duty.
Philip.
I forgot.
Where he's like, Philip. Like he's trying to remember that Philip. Oh, fuck, I forgot about fridge duty. It's another one of those moments where it's like, yeah, somewhere on a schedule, like on a time rubric, right next to like clean the bathrooms or something, there's like, you're on fridge duty from 7 to 8.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yes, and the first time you can see him before you can take that quest when you're on your way to find Dylan still, and Jesse's like, I'm doing something else, I'll be right back.
He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. He's been staring at it for like over 40 hours or something. Like 30 hours, he says.
Yeah, it was definitely over a day.
Can you not blink one eye at a time? I can with zero practice.
Yes, I can too.
Right? So, do you not think there could be some kind of like agent training to like, all right, fridge duty training, you gotta learn how to always keep one eye open.
Right.
Or like, we made glasses that are, Darling made like, they're like glasses that physically close and open eyes alternately if you can't do it for you.
Right.
Like there must have been.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the Bureau should hire me because I have a lot of good ideas.
Right.
Contain that fridge a lot better.
I was also wondering if you like had like a camera on the fridge and then multiple monitors, and then you could even at that point
maybe the
put a few people on them.
Frames thing.
It could be. I don't know how that works.
But between you and I, the point is,
how much damage could it do between frames though?
It's just enough to eat a person. The person disappears because Philip is like,
but you're in a different room though.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, poor Philip. He didn't. Yeah. He almost made it.
I felt bad. I truly felt bad here.
He says the fridge is doing something. He doesn't even.
He has time to react.
Yeah, he's not like I blinked. He's like, Jesse, the fridge is doing something.
Yeah, I always assumed that he blinked, and that was what set that off.
Yeah,
but
stands to reason.
But there's also like a weird moment where the like the door that you came in through closes. So you're kind of locked in that like little C room that connects outdoor to inside. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why did that close?
Yeah.
Is that just a video game mechanic, or is there something
fucking
more
closing the door behind
sinister
you.
going on?
When cleansing the fridge and all the escaped altered items, this is very interesting. The board isn't present in the astral plane. There's no pyramid when you cleanse these items.
Specifically, like the fridge?
Every single one of Langston's runaways. Every single time, because you fight Former. You see Former at the end of them, and when Former is present, the board pyramid is not.
All the other runaways, you don't go to even the boards area.
Yeah,
right?
usually you don't even some of them you don't even astral plane.
Right, you
but
just cleanse
for every not object of power that you touch and go to the astral plane, the board is not there.
Right.
Which very much leads us to believe that
and they don't give you
Former-
powers.
That's correct.
Right.
Very much leads to, and once Former frigs off, because you usually fight Former and he goes away, the item calms down. The fridge calms down. And Langston is like, what do you mean you fixed the fridge? That's
How do you fix the fridge?
yeah, and he's
It's
like,
the fridge.
I just did. So it very much seems like Former, for whatever reason, is stirring up the altered items.
Yes.
Langston, we get a lot of ton of info here. We get knife rain, which is very funny.
Line of the game.
Line of the game. Langston says that objects of power are bound to the astral plane, but not altered items.
Yes.
Kind of indicating that Former is linking itself to altered items. And the board says it's building competition. If you leave, you will be sorry/dead, and it threatens you against working with Former.
This is, I think, the most the board talks all game is in this one hotline call.
Yeah.
Where it's like the board's hotline calls are always like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is like the board's got some shit to tell you
And
about not choosing the Former.
Give you the business.
Yes.
Langston mentioned Sudden Stop, an Alex Casey movie. He just says, I can't believe I'm missing Sudden Stop, the Alex Casey movie for this. Sudden Stop is the 6th book in the Alex Casey series, which is the last thing that Alan Wake wrote before his writer's block.
Yes.
So Alex Casey... Alex Casey, the movie series exists in this world.
We don't know if the book series
We don't know if the book series exists. There is an FBI agent named Alex Casey investigating the Bright Falls incident.
And there's a very skeptical document from whoever is writing the document who's like, the fuck are the odds?
Yeah. Dylan has been hissed. We find Dylan here. Dylan has been hissed, but he's
a lot of stuff here from Dylan.
Yeah, I got all the dreams.
Yeah.
He's different than the others. He's been affected by the hiss, but he can kind of come back. He can talk to you. He's not just doing the chant.
Yeah, it seems kind of in and out.
Yeah, something that when prime candidates get infected, they still, like Jesse, like Trench, maintain some part of themselves.
And you're right, actually, because for a while I thought that it was because of Polaris. That
Dylan was able to.
But you're right, because Trench did as well.
Yeah.
And we have no reason to believe that Trench has had any connection with Polaris.
No.
But you're right. Was the hiss a slow thing with Trench too? How did Trench die? I know he shot himself, but was that a slow infection or was that?
It seemed like it because him and Darling go into slide 36B through the projector.
Yeah.
Darling brings back the Hedron resonance and learns all about it. And Trench hears something and tells Darling, but Darling's like, his medical record showed up fine. We couldn't detect anything.
Yeah.
But Trench describes it as like a worm that burrowed into my brain. And after that, he's like, Darling is going to consume us all. We need the hiss is the better option.
Right.
Like the hiss kind of convinces him that Hedron is going to consume everything.
Yeah. That is a little tidbit from the part of the game that I did not get to the second time. So I wanted to fact check that because I very much took that before you just brought it up as being like, oh yeah, Dylan and Jesse are not immune to it, but can fight it off because of Polaris. But it must just be maybe the directorship.
Could be, their natural abilities.
Right.
You might also neither of these could be correct. There's no definite answer.
But I guess I feel like Trench had nothing to do with Polaris.
As far as we know, he was in the slide though, where Polaris was, right? Because Hedron and Darling spoke. So
who's to say?
Who's to say? I will say, Dylan does say she didn't give me the powers; they were my own. Very likely implying. I mean, what else could he be talking about? Very likely implying that they have the abilities, not Polaris. Jesse says when he finds him, he's my brother. Or is he? Dylan speaks in the third person. He recognizes Polaris when Jesse speaks, and he gets very, very angry, which lines up with... later we find transcripts of him. He always wants the TV on. He asks his aides to turn the TV on because he wants the noise to cover his conversation he's having with an invisible entity that is, he refers to as female, and is very, very likely Polaris because he talks about his sister and stuff.
Right.
And so the second time through, especially, you get the sense that, oh shit, Dylan knows Polaris.
Yes. And just the timing of this seems very like Polaris would have jumped from Dylan to Jesse when things started going hairy, and that's what set Dylan off to escape his cell and run roughshod for a little while. And it seems like Jesse would have just come straight to the Bureau from that moment.
Yes,
which makes
Polaris brought... Later we hear a recording of a therapy session with Jesse's, where she says, I need to be somewhere very specific for a very specific time. Something important is going to happen.
Yes.
Polaris basically telling Jesse, you got to be in New York. By the time Trent shoots himself, you got to be in New York.
Yes, it's important. So it feels like, Polaris just came back to Jesse like before the game.
Yeah. Yeah, like right before. I don't know if the first time... Yeah, it's probably not the first time you're talking to her because she's like, this is going to be weirder than usual. But yes,
it's very quick.
Yeah, Polaris has been gone for a lot of years. A lot of double speak here in these dreams. Dylan, I love all of this. Dylan implies... or not implies, but just brings up, like, have you ever realized how weird it is that Jesse and Dylan could be boys' names or girls' names?
There's so much stuff here where I'm like I don't even know what to make of this.
Maybe we're the same person, and Dylan constantly refers to her as the only child, which is really weird. He says, she didn't give me powers, all the powers are my own, as I said earlier.
But we also don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Although I think everything Dylan says here is true. And also
that's
might not
that's
be
your
true.
take. Yeah.
Yes. Dylan tells Jesse the Bureau took the slide projector and used it, opening the door to the hiss. And he says that's the only thing I can thank them for. Saying how like the hiss is the better option. Dylan says he let the hiss in to get rid of Polaris. He tells Jesse that Polaris is using her. The Bureau is using her. She's a puppet, which is not wrong actually, but it goes with my suspicions of the board is using us.
But also Dylan, ever much so the puppet as well.
Seems
to be the, if we're to believe that the hiss has some sort of agenda, then Dylan seems to be the hiss's puppet.
Totally. And also there was a lot of time where I went down this path, keeping in mind like maybe Dylan's telling the truth. Maybe Polaris is the worst option. Maybe the hiss is actually in some roundabout way trying to save the house.
They certainly don't tell us by the end of this game.
They don't, but I'm by the end of the games, I am reasonably convinced that Dylan and Trench have both, because their perception is just inverted. They're like, the Hedron is going to kill us and consume everything, and whereas everybody else is like, no, it's the hiss. The hiss makes people crazy, it corrupts them.
Yes,
I very much think the hiss is just warping Dylan's perceptions. But Dylan tells her Jessie has to see for herself the horrible secret of the Bureau. The hiss is the better option, and he sends her off to the Prime Candidate program. But if you stay and talk to him, he has several strange dreams to tell you about, and these are all so fucking good.
Yes.
There's one where he's one person named Jesse Dylan Faden. Yes. There's another dream where he became the director, and he got Jesse an office assistant job, but the dream wouldn't end. But then it shifted, and it was a game, and it did end, referring to the fake ending that you see later.
This exact thing happens.
Yes. He dreams that he freed the hiss from the house, and it infected the president. And the president of the United States was the first to take it in, and then the world took it in.
Yes. This could have been our fifth JFK assassination reality.
Everybody go watch the Umbrella Academy.
Yes. And play Black Ops 1.
Yeah, tell me about the numbers. Dylan says he dreams he was in a dark place.
Yes.
There was a dark man there. Have you played Quantum Break?
No.
Okay.
This is Mr. Book?
His name was Mr. Door.
Mr. Door.
There is an untitled note you find in Quantum Break, which refers to shifters, people who, because Quantum Break is about timelines breaking, and there are people who can, it's not really clear. They whatever illness that like someone has like time traveler illness basically at the start of that game, I think, and then the whole time travel is like, we got to cure this time sickness basically, and that's how they break time. I'm not really sure, having not played it. But there is a concept of a shifter, which is someone who can be in multiple timelines at once.
Like what, you play a shifter?
Do you play?
Yes.
Maybe. I'm not actually
sure.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But like, I'm trying to think of like a pseudonym. Someone who is in multiple timelines at once. Ati might be a shifter, right? Multiple timelines seem to exist beyond our reality.
Yes.
You find a note about shifters that says, quoting here from Quantum Break, became a shifter, became at once everything and nothing, was everywhere and nowhere, died countless deaths and was still alive. My every probability, every possibility happening at once. I strive for humility, even as I shift this world from one state to another. I will make this possible. I stand in between. I don't see myself as a gate. I remain humble. I'm something smaller. A hatch. Or
always a lighthouse.
Or I put to you, not a hatch, but a door.
Oh, or a door. Yes. Mr. Door.
Mr. Door. And Mr. Door told Dylan there were many worlds side by side on top of each other. In one world, there's a writer who wrote a story about a cop. That's Alan Wake.
Yeah.
In another world, the cop was real. That's Max Payne. Door himself said he was in all of them, endlessly shifting between them. But Mr. Door didn't want to help Dylan bring the Hissin. He didn't like the idea.
No.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
That is so amazing. Like, so Dylan ran, because I think he what's his name? He plays Zavala in Destiny.
I don't know the actor.
Yeah, he's got a real deep voice.
Yeah.
His name is unpronounceable.
Okay.
I guess Mr. Ali.
Okay.
I know his last name is Ali. I think he is Mr. Hatch from Quantum Break.
Okay.
Maybe.
Don't tell me I need to play Quantum Break.
This game kind of made me realize I need to play Quantum Break. Yeah.
It's just his one line too, wasn't it?
Well, and like Beth Wilder is Courtney Hope, and they run into each other, and yeah.
Well, put it on the list.
Anyways,
if I can play through Alan Wake, I can get through Quantum Break.
We're on our way to the Prime Candidate Program. Let's see here. We found a research document that says objects of power translocate anyone who makes physical contact to the astral plane. Yeah. This is widely believed to be due to the Redacteds, the board's affiliation with objects of power. Not every individual is allowed in the astral plane, which indicates the Redacted board evaluates who can and who cannot enter. And then it goes on to say, isn't it weird that the surface weapon and hotline kill you? Mm-hmm. Clearly the board are controlling these somehow.
Yeah.
Also, by the end of this game, I could pretty much fill in every Redacted, except for like the joke ones in the middle of the page.
Yeah, me too. The even just the way, like, once you play through it once, the way that you can come back and start a second playthrough and just like you can see all the words where it's like, oh, I totally know what this is about. I'm a pro now.
It's very, very smartly laid out. Mm-hmm. We learned that Trench started the Prime Candidate program in case the Bureau suddenly needs a director. Makes good sense. P1 through 5 were false leads. P4, I believe, is Alan Wake. Alan Wake is a Prime Candidate somewhere.
Say that, yeah.
P6 fell into their arms, which is Dylan. Yeah. We learn here that a little bit of backstory about Trench. At some point, just like Alan, well, not just like, so I was going to say Max Payne. Max Payne, obviously, his wife and daughter killed by Valhalla. Was the gang Valhalla? Was the drug Valhalla? I don't know. A gang killed his wife and daughter. Wife and daughter died.
The gang
That's
or a drug.
You know, and then he always talked about rain on a dark night. Then he became a poet.
That's right.
We learn here that Trench, the actor and voice actor that plays Alan Wake, brought something home with him from the house that made his daughter sick. And his daughter died, and his wife left him. Trench wanted to bring her to Darling to figure out whatever it was, but his wife wouldn't hear tell of it.
So same but different.
Yeah, same but different. He lost his wife and his daughter, and that becomes his, like, oh, now I just have the house. This is it.
Now I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. Grinding up pain pills on the time for bed. We learned that Dylan has, quote, Northmore level readings, such potential. This is in a video with Darling. There was an incident where Dylan apparently killed somebody, and in a transcript we can hear Dylan talking to a visible entity, saying, stop showing me her. You both left me here to rot. Very likely talking about Polaris and Jesse. We learned about a few AWEs, Bright Falls. The Bureau interviewed Alice Wake at some point. We'll come back to that. The wife of Alan.
This is the bad redacted.
This is the bad redacted, yeah. Blank Wake.
Yeah, Blank Wake. And then
Alice Redacted.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Wake right after.
We learn about... Jesse finds the Bureau was watching her. As she suspected. She always thought she was paranoid. She always thought she was being watched. And she finds out that they were.
Yes. It's like control versus whatever the opposite of control is in an experiment. Your control...
Oh, yeah. Variables.
Variable, yeah. Where it's like you control Dylan and watch him and then let Jesse be the variable.
Yeah, they never get into touch with her. Even though Darling tells Dylan she can come to the Bureau too if she wants to. She's a Prime Candidate, but they never get in touch.
Which it makes you wonder how much Darling knows about Polaris. Because it's basically like, well, she's never gonna come unless Polaris brings her here. And
right now, I assume Darling doesn't know about
Polaris.
Yeah,
He knows about Hedron.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I don't know what his level of I don't know what he knows.
Neither do I.
Yes.
But I think, I don't know, by the end of it all, he might know quite a bit because he leaves you that dynamite recording in a dream in the motel in a way that like
you wonder if he always knew Jesse was going to, like, if Polaris was always going to bring Jesse here and Jesse was always going to be the answer to the hiss.
It seems like he might. It seems like he might learn that real late in the plan.
Right.
And then he's like, oh.
After he's gone full fucking batshit. Yeah.
Oh, shit. We're
well into, I have not played this stuff in a year now.
Okay.
We are past what I got up to.
So we are hearing these therapy sessions of Jesse's. We are learning kind of about her past. We're learning about the ordinary AWE right now.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that they often play in the dump, but this time they found a way in deeper. And she says, like it had shifted. Something happened in the dump. Something, be it just random act of God or whatever, something brought the slide projector to Jesse.
Right.
Something shifted it into the dump.
Right.
She recites a poem by Tom Zane. So they call him Tom Zane.
They call him Tom Zane in this universe.
And Alan Wake, they always said Thomas Zane,
yes,
right?
And these are like the differences, like
good.
the movies instead of the books. Like there are...
Because in Alan Wake's universe, he's a poet. And
Right.
Jesse calls him a poet here and recites a poem by him where she says... I think I wrote it down. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there's a miracle illuminated, which is the last lines of the song that Barry Wheeler wrote to save Al. That's the song that Barry wrote to save Al in Alan Wake.
Beyond the shadow you settle for, there is a miracle illuminated. Deep in the ocean of darkness in the mirror.
There's also a neat little tidbit that I actually read about this, going down a small rabbit hole, about Alan Wake, the end of Alan Wake, or not the end of Alan Wake, but later in Alan Wake, the girl, the cop, the sheriff. I can't remember her name.
Is it Estevez?
I thought it was a girl.
Yeah,
is Estevez a girl?
Estevez
I thought
is
Estevez was a guy
girl.
in my readings. It totally might be.
Or Breaker, Sheriff Breaker.
Might be Sheriff Breaker too, but it's whoever the lady sheriff is.
Mm-hmm.
Gives like a list of like random phone numbers to I think Barry, and she's like, just start calling all these people and tell them what's going on here. And I can't remember. I'd have to reread the thing, and I'm kind of half-assing this. But it's very much believed that those are the the bureau station.
Yeah.
At Cauldron Lake.
I'm trying to remember.
Because you're right. Estevez
is the agent who's on site.
Who's like, you're in charge of looking after Cauldron Lake and watching for AWEs.
At the very end, they're like, well, Estevez is on site. She should get back to us. But Frank Breaker is, I don't know, between Frank Breaker and Sarah Breaker are the Breakers. One of them, I think Frank works for the FBC and his daughter Sarah is the sheriff of Bright Falls, maybe? One of them works for the FBC.
Okay. And the other one is... obviously the sheriff of Bright Falls, which I think is Sarah, because that's what I'm thinking of. It was definitely a girl. And she has a moment where, like, while her and Alan are heading to do their business, she gives the fucking list to Barry, and she's like, you got to call all these numbers. This is fucking the whole list of numbers. Just keep calling them and telling them what's going on here.
That's in Alan Wake, or is that
that's in
Control?
Alan Wake.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Because I remember that from Alan Wake.
Oh, shit. And it's, like, totally unexplained until now. You're just like, what the fuck
exactly.
are phone
She
numbers?
just gives them a list of numbers and be like, call these numbers.
Maybe Sam Lake was planning this whole fucking...
Maybe.
Do you think they just have, like...
Or maybe that list of numbers was literally at that point, like, oh, it's like...
the fire department.
It's like the fire department.
The ambulance.
And then Sam Lake's like, no, it's the fucking FBC.
What the... Man. Sort of blew my mind. That sort of blew my mind. I'm very much with you of how much of this was it. They claim it was all planned from day one, but like let's be honest here.
The fact that we're asking is good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Because there's a lot of Hideo Kojima has done some stuff where it's like there's no fucking way.
The arm psycho hypnotherapy. Stop it.
It's bad the more you think about it.
It is
in a
bad
way.
the more
Control
you
is
think
better the more you think about it.
So she recites the poem by Tom Zane, and it made me crazy they called him Tom this whole time, but I'm glad.
But it's also a great little like the fact that it gets that reaction out of you, because it's the same thing with like the books and movies where it's like,
wasn't he?
I thought they were books.
Yeah. So yes, she says a poem, and the therapist says there's no poet by that name, but there was a European filmmaker named Tom Zane who moved to Ordinary in the '60s.
Hot damn.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
That might be Ati.
It's not. It doesn't seem like it should be Tom Zane.
It's probably not Thomas Zane.
Right.
Although, who knows?
Because we're also going to see someone who claims to be Tom Zane who looks exactly like Alan Wake.
Yes.
In the AWE.
And then that Tom Zane also says Kippis, which is Finnish for
Finnish.
cheers.
Yeah.
And who do we know who speaks Finnish? Jessie said she feels like she lost a piece of herself in this thing. And the therapist is like, well, yeah, you lost your brother and your parents. Of course you do. And she's like, no, not that. Something else. And she names Polaris. She says she lost Polaris after this event. Polaris went away. So we know that wherever Polaris is.
This is the junkyard event.
Yes.
With
this
the
is
projector.
The therapy after the ordinary AWE.
Oh, I see. Okay. So she has since lost Polaris since that.
Yeah.
Since
After ordinary
projector.
FBC came and took her brother, cleaned it all up, and Polaris went away.
Right. Presumably to Dylan.
Yes. But she also says she has to be somewhere very specific at a very specific time. Something important is going to happen.
Yeah.
Jesse makes her way to the ordinary AWE research site where they brought the entire dump into the house. Nice. I audibly lolled the first time that I saw, of course, Darling made them bring the entire dump.
Yep. It's so good.
The videos in Darling's lab here show him looking really rough, like bags under his eyes. We learned that he set up the dimensional research, a whole new sector, just to investigate the slide projector. We see another video of him looking really beat where he says Dylan is a lost cause because there was another incident where he killed somebody, but he's contained now. So basically they locked Dylan up after he kind of didn't work. Video of him explaining the HRAs where he's got his whiskey and it like falls off the thing and he's like very down. He's like, it'll be quick and painless. Haha, just kidding. There's a counter essay about the astral plane in his mobile office, which is in the dump, that supposits what if objects of power were never linked to the astral plane to begin with, but had that connection forced upon them by the board? Isn't it strange they require such direct physical contact? Isn't it strange the service weapon or the hotline will harm anyone that isn't the director? Which I love, because yes, you should be asking these questions. Also, Darling, just to get to the...
Is this Darling's counter essay or a counter essay to Darling?
Counter essay to Darling.
What? Yeah, Darling's thoughts.
Yeah. Just to get to the ashtray maze. Can't get through it. We have to find Ati. It's been locked with a object of power. Even though Trench doesn't like using them, he used the cigarette in the ashtray.
It's a great little bit of game design that they bring you right by that door in Central Research while you're slumming around doing other stuff.
And you can get into the maze before there.
And I think they want you to get into the maze.
Which I totally did. And was like, I can't fucking figure this out.
Fun fact. Bit of a sad reveal for me. Not emotionally sad, but like I was an idiot for not really getting it and not even really thinking about it. I didn't know why it was called the ashtray maze after my first play. I always called it the ashtray maze and I was like, yeah, that's the ashtray maze. Yeah. But I don't think I ever found the document that said, oh yeah, it's literally an ashtray that's making the thing.
Yeah, I think you might get it right after you do the maze. It might be one of those ones you do the maze.
No, it's early because I got it on my second playthrough.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Weird. But yeah, it is physically on the bottom of the ashtray. There's a literal engraving of a maze.
Yes.
And whoever is bound to the ashtray maze can set up the maze and allow certain
anyone
people
who
through.
they say, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that thing from Harry Potter.
The room of requirement.
No, it's like the secret. Like if you're a secret keeper, you can't see the house.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Unless someone tells you. I guess that's more like the house, oldest house.
It's like the oldest house.
Yeah.
She has to go find Ati. She can't make it through the maze, but Trench says over the hotline, I let Ati and the select staff through. We find that Ati has gone on vacation, but he trusts his assistant will take care of the house.
Does he let Ati through?
He says he did. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the thing he says.
I was always of the mind that Ati got through because of his Walkman.
Maybe. No, you might be right. For some reason,
I did not get to this the second time.
Yeah, I watched. I don't. You might have convinced. Maybe he doesn't because Ati does have the song.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe Ati's. Maybe he just says my select staff through, which I was just assuming meant Ati. But you're right. He has the song.
He seems to have his own ways about.
Ati's on vacation. We get a real strong. We're following these visions. We get a real strong link to water here. Ati is a Finnish folklore hero called the Islander. He's a fisherman. Otto is a Finnish god of the sea. There may or may not be something between them. Right. Nobody's really sure.
Plus the whole overarching theme of the ocean, not a lake, it's an ocean. Not a lake, it's an ocean.
Oh fuck! I didn't even. That one was lost on me till now. Shit. Maybe Ati is just capital G God.
When we did our whole Game of the Year thing. I think Ati was actually the guy who made it on the list for Character of the
Best
Year.
new character.
Yeah. And I did not actually, like, I thought there was something about him, but not capital G God. I feel like the more I've played, the more I think he's getting closer and closer to capital G God.
Where it seems like he's just
the guy,
nudging every event.
He could also be
He's
Mr. Door.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's putting everything in motion.
Right.
Oh, fuck.
He exists over everything.
Stop it.
Yeah.
He can't be Mr. Door. Stop it. Oh.
He seems like the kind of guy that wouldn't think it's a good idea
just broke my
for
brain.
Dylan to open the door.
That just broke my fucking brain. So we see all these visions of water and things. And after the AWE DLC, we will learn, if you do all the side missions, you get a postcard from Ati that says he's gone to the town of Watery, Washington.
Yes.
Which, if you look on the maps in Alan Wake, is right across the river from Bright Falls. And just a stone's throw from Cauldron Lake. It's on the maps in Alan Wake. Watery, Washington was always there.
I did not know that.
Ati has gone on vacation to Watery. I put to you Brandon Lynch because he has to go into Cauldron Lake to meet Alan in the Dark Place, which is where we see him posing as Tom Zane at the beginning of AWE. We'll get there.
Fuck, time is a flat circle.
Well, this kind of makes sense. This is like chronological. Ati has to leave. He's going on vacation because he's got to go get to fucking Cauldron Lake so we can see him in the DLC.
Oh, I thought you meant he's got to go back and be Thomas Zane.
No, he's going right now.
To start Alan Wake in the game.
Oh no, he's going.
Okay,
right.
no, that makes more sense.
Maybe that whole meta thing also. But
yes.
no, he's leaving the oldest house right now to go to Watery, Washington, because he has to go to Cauldron Lake so that he can show up in
have
the spiral
that,
room.
Side by side, not argument, but discussion with.
Yeah, you can put Alan on his path
as Tom Wake.
Tom Zane.
Tom Zane. Sorry, my brain is slowly melting. Oozing like a balloon.
Yes. Jesse goes back to the motel, finds Ati's old friend the Clog again, has to clear him out. Eventually follows these visions down to the foundation, down to the crossroads, which leads to we see the thing that leads to the foundation, the carving. Has a tree etched into it. Obviously, a lot of allusion to Yggdrasil and the Tree of Life and old gods and so on and so forth.
And this is where they put the foundation if you haven't beat the game, right? I think this is when you get access to the foundation as DLC.
That stone is the thing that, yes, you physically have to go to that stone. So this will be the first time you see it.
Yes. But I think like we played the foundation DLC
after the fact.
After the fact.
Yes,
but I feel like this is when you get the mission right there. Yeah.
And Ati gives you his pony Walkman, which he says the song on it is a present to you from my friends. And is by the old gods, which are Odin and Tor from Odin Tor Anderson from Alan Wake. My friends, we think Ati is an old god. It's kind of, I don't know. I thought for a while here maybe Ati was like Loki or fit into that role somewhere.
Sure.
Where like where's the third brother and we know he's a trickster and all this, but
could be.
Jury's really out on that one still. The song gets you through. We know the old god songs have power. They're artists. They made that song at Cauldron Lake where our works of art are real. And it gets you through the hotline. Also, if you reverse this song, I never knew this until this DLC.
Yes,
if you reverse
I read
the song,
this.
there is a crystal clear, and I'll put it in the spoiler cast when we get to it. There's a crystal clear message. It's just numbers and like it is not like you like reverse the Ozzy records of old and it's like it is just a voice being like 17, 9, 1, 7. Like it is a clear, crystal fucking clear voice, and it even says other things about how
there's
it has like a whole
words too,
poem.
isn't there?
And
Yeah.
it has that thing about the Thomas Zane poem I read earlier.
The diamond will tell you where 1, 19, 7, 1, 18, 4, 9, 19. Landing on the Baylor Star and rushing on to the Red Room. Find the cord to take you to a secret rendezvous.
Apparently that's it. You just reverse that song. Apparently that's in there. And is the solution to a puzzle in AWE, which is madness. The board says we have the hotline, the house/tree. They call it house/tree, which, Tree of Life, Yggdrasil. It grew from the foundation. They also say, we are there. We have a door there. Because we will later learn, and I'm pretty confident about this, the nail is how the board is connected to the oldest house. If there's no nail, it seems like the board might not have a purchase in the oldest house. That's the foundation. Trench through the hotline tells Jesse they used the slide projector. Trench himself led the expeditions through, even though he was director. Everyone who survived was deeply affected by what they found there. What Darling brought back, it changed everything. But I did find my meaning in that desert, he says. A sound. like a needle, drilling in, cutting through the containment suit. Darling said it was nothing, but he's wrong. Man got hissed.
That's the hissed.
Yep.
The first hissed.
Jesse finds where the Bureau opened the door to Slide 36B. Polaris is just on the other side of the door.
Yes.
Polaris is just closed. There's a big HRA on the door. Darling. So when Darling and Trench went into Slide 36B, that thing that Trench was talking about, what Darling brought back, he brought back Hedron, the source of the resonance, pardon me, a living organism of considerable mass, and they built a container for it. We don't actually see it. We just see the container, I assume.
Right. And sorry, what's the HRA on? It's not
it's
on
the door.
Okay, I thought it was on the organism in my memory for some reason.
It's on the door locking that out, and you have to like rip these 4 locks off.
Right.
Falls off. And as soon as it does, the hiss start attacking Hedron. And you're like, oh shit, the big HRI was to lock out the hiss.
Right.
We see shirtless Darling, who is fucking ripped. That dude is over 50 in real life and is just built like a brick shithouse.
I'm Dr. Casper Darling, and this is my final message. It's not the end. But after this, I won't. I exposed myself to Hedron resonance fully. It's changing me. I've seen. I've been shown so much. Slidescape 36 was where Hedron stopped the spread of another. It's terrifying. It really is. It's another source of resonance. Trench was exposed to this other. It will now spread. I've done everything I can to stop it. The Hedron resonance amplifiers. I don't know if it'll make a difference. I won't be here when it happens. I should have told him any more. I'm being sent one more lesson. Something wonderful, I think.
Fuck.
And that's the last time we see him, other than the dynamite.
Where the fuck he go?
I don't know. He knew he was going somewhere.
Yeah.
He totally knew. And then he talks to us later from the hotline. So Darling had a plan. Darling somehow, Hedron, Polaris, and Darling knew.
Yeah. Darling, I think Darling has more information than I believed he had, even after my first playthrough.
Exposed himself fully to Hedron. Who knows what he learned?
I wonder, like, so obviously they've left themselves countless options for a sequel to this game.
Oh yeah,
which we'll get more into. But like, I wonder if maybe I've just been watching too much Dark. But like, what if he is Ahti?
Sure.
What if he what if he becomes the guy that can walk all the planes at once?
Sure.
Yeah.
What if he just made himself into a shifter? What if he quantum broke himself?
That's right.
I don't. What if this is all just a story Alan wrote?
What if?
And like this is just Alan Wake 2.
This
part 1.
Like that, and we're gonna get into it. That seems remarkably likely in a way that like Alan Wake wrote all this, didn't he?
No,
or you don't think so?
No. We'll kind of go into that because I also there's a very big question mark of like, did Alan Wake actually write Control to get himself to lead to him getting out of Cauldron Lake? And I don't think so. I think he's involved certainly, but I don't think it's all an Alan Wake story or a Thomas Zane's. I don't think it's all a story that someone's writing.
Right. Okay.
We'll get to that in the DLC.
But even if it is, like.
Even if it is.
What does that mean? Like, he's writing reality.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Reality's a simulation, but we're held to the simulation, so who cares?
It's not like it's just going to all disappear.
Oh, what if it does? It's not a lake. where are we here? As Jesse gets, so you have this big dumb combat which sucks ass so hard. God damn it! They added this dynamic difficulty thing which is cool, and I made myself invincible for the next times I played through it. That last fight's real mean. But anyways, you fight
They give you a better checkpoint on this one?
No.
They give you a better checkpoint on Mold 1.
Okay, that's
which
something
is nice. Yeah. I died a lot of times in Mold 1.
The Hiss start attacking Hedron. Just has to do this big fight thing up. As she gets close, the chamber collapses and it falls to the ground. And Jesse is like, "Oh my god, what happened? It's all... we're fucked," basically. And fake credits start rolling. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
So, like, the organism fell?
Just the what I'm assuming is the shell, the container, because we just see, like, the stone... Or maybe it is the actual organism, because he says he named it Hedron based on the shape.
I can't remember this at all.
But it looks like a dice. It looks like a 12-sided dice.
Yeah.
And it's a big stone thing with pipes on it, and it like floats up, and they're like control point relays. They look like those satellites are like shooting red beams into them. You gotta cleanse them all. Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta cleanse them all, and it keeps floating higher, and the pillars keep getting higher, and more hits keep spawning.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
then
final
you
boss
jump up to the very top. You're gonna fly over to it, and the whole thing just falls to pieces.
Okay.
Falls to pieces, and Jesse's like, "Oh, we're fucked."
Yes.
And then fake credits start rolling. And like there's like a red, like she starts getting infected by the hiss. You see the live action, it's all red, and she's like, I'm being torn apart.
This is another reason to maybe think that the hiss can't affect her because of Polaris and not because of her natural abilities. Because this is kind of when Polaris hits the floor.
Little column A, little column B, maybe. Because at this point, when Hedron falls, every HRA in the house stops working.
Right.
Which we learn later, which is that's
fucked.
It's super fucked.
No.
Presumably, and again, we don't really know what happens. Polaris goes from Hedron into Jesse. Kind of is this was all a way to activate Polaris into Jesse somehow.
So are we to believe that Polaris has just kind of been talking to Jesse? But
yeah,
okay,
but has been in the Hedron until now, which fell apart. Now it's in Jesse. But anyways, you get these fake credits. Jesse's in a monochrome office, stuck doing these Monday tasks over and over and over and over.
It's like the Dylan dream.
Exactly like the Dylan dream.
Yeah.
Eventually, you get the director's mail and take it to Trench, seeing Ati along the way, who seems to be aware of the loop. Ati is like, "Hey, keep trying. This is fucked up."
Yeah.
And you take your mail to Trench. Trench's mail to him. And first time you see Dylan shooting Jesse with the service weapon. You're like, "Oh, this is weird." The whole thing loops again. This time, Trench lays out his entire plan. He literally just says it to you. He's like, "I'm going to go to the research center and use the slide projector. I'll let the hiss in.
I'll turn it on. I'll bring the hiss in. I'll fix this." I can hear them plotting against me. We've been invaded, corrupted. I've lost Darling. He was the first to go. He's been exposed to Hedron's resonance. It controls him now. It controls everyone who wears the amplifier device. I ordered them not to use the damn things. They didn't listen. Hedron corrupted the Bureau. They'll never be people again. They're either dead or they're monsters. I'll stop them. I have a secret ally. The Nostalgia Department. I have my own slide for the projector. I took it. A memento. In ordinary. After the girl burned them. It's burnt, but it'll work. The hiss will save us all.
And again, he describes how something got into his ear on that first expedition. It hurt at first, but then it didn't. He describes unclogging the drain with the janitor. Only sometimes the janitor is an old god, and sometimes the clog of fish. Like, he's very much flipping between realities or whatever is happening to him. Jesse sees herself shoot Trench. Darling calls on the hotline at this point. And this is where we get this call from Darling. The only time this ever happens on the hotline, he's yelling like he's like an old man who's never used the phone. He's like, "I have a message for the director of the Federal." And
is this the first time he talks on the hotline?
Yes. This is the only time he talks on the hotline.
Right. Then you don't get any more in the DLC.
Not from Darling.
Okay, good.
No, only from Alan and Marshall and the board.
Yes.
But yes, he's like, it clearly sounds like it's the first time he's used whatever he's doing to communicate on the hotline, which again is like, well, he's wherever he went, he sort of knew this was going to have to happen.
Right.
He's
Maybe
probably
he
not
just got
dead.
there.
Yeah. I want to believe Darling's still out there. And he tells her to get to his office. He's like, you got to get to my office. You got to find the end game. She goes to Darling's office.
Actually call it the end game?
Yeah, he says the end game. He goes to Darling's office in this dream. It's all monochrome.
Yep.
There's a light cord in Darling's office. She flicks it and goes to the motel, which is not monochrome. Now it's like whoosh. It looks like we're in the motel as we know it.
Yes.
And she says about how the motel connects even to dreamscapes. If this is my dream, why shouldn't it lead me where I want to go? Gets the keys, goes back to the oldest house, through the oldest house door, the inverted pyramid door.
One of their very clever puzzles.
That's right. Oh, that's a lie. Actually, she does not go through the pyramid door. Pardon me.
Okay.
In room 223, 224, 225, the last room on the left, it's unlocked. It has a picture of her on it, actually. She opens it. It has like her director picture on it. She opens it, and she finds a vision of herself floating with Polaris around, and the subtitle is Polaris Jessie. And Polaris Jessie says a bunch of... It's almost like the hiss chant, but it's like, it's not the hiss chant. It's the Polaris chant or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, she says the motel's a place of power that connects even to dreams. In one of the other rooms, we find Dynamite, which is the music video that Darling left us. Which is very good.
It's very good.
Also has a bunch of different Darlings in a way that in this world of different actors and different Alan Wakes and different doppelgangers.
Yes.
I wonder if that's significant or not.
Well, and it's also interesting because we mentioned the Dynamite video being like a clear moment that Darling seemed to know a lot about Jesse. Mm-hmm. And maybe he didn't know until he got wherever he got what Jesse was. Because that would make more sense for like... I forgot that you found that in such a spot as the motel. I thought you found it in the oldest house, which this makes much more sense because in the oldest house, it basically means for sure he had some connection to Polaris who was telling him that Jesse was important.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe he doesn't know Jesse at all. Well, he knows her as a potential candidate, but maybe it's not until he goes wherever the fuck he goes that he realizes like, oh, Jesse's important. I should make a dumb music video about her.
Yeah, I'm sure the music video is significant, but I cannot figure out how to save my life.
I mean, it's significant for us regardless.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's moment of the year.
No.
Should have been.
Or maybe just retroact. Let's go redact a lot of those fucking old ones and put new ones in.
Jessie makes her way finally to the slide projector, and when she goes to cleanse it, she finds herself in the astral plane where Dylan is attacking the board. Dylan looks like he is shooting a laser into the giant pyramid.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, that's weird.
That's a fucked up thing to do.
Why is the hiss attacking the board? Jessie tries to... before this, the board overclocks your abilities.
To me, from the information I have, I feel like it's not weird for him to be attacking the board.
Might be a little weird.
Unless you know something I don't know. But for me, it feels like the board and the hiss are at odds.
Totally.
Yeah.
But we and the board might also be at odds.
Right, but
so maybe
we're speculating that.
Maybe enemy my enemy.
We're speculating that the board might be a problem.
It's a little more than enough characters are like.
Right,
we won't let the board know.
But as Jesse, we're like the board might be a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas the board versus hiss seems to be
the hiss
very
is definitely a problem.
Yes, so I feel like Dylan hates the board. I feel like that is a certain.
Dylan himself hates the board.
Yes,
I think,
and I feel like
Dylan
the hiss would hate the board.
I don't really. I don't know how the hiss. I don't know if the hiss does feel. Again, I totally think the hiss is like a force. I think all the intelligence and stuff is just we.
I'll go back to my T-Rex analogy. I'm not saying emotional hate, but this needs to go for me to survive. An instinctual thing. I was under the impression that it felt like the board is like, hey, the hiss is bad. The hiss is a problem, and the hiss is like, if we are to survive and flourish and flow, the board is a problem. We got to deal with the board.
But there's also a faction of people.
Like, doesn't the hiss try and get to the spike in the foundation?
Yeah, they do.
Like, I feel like the hiss is trying to fuck the board.
Yeah. And we later learn that maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe
right. And
maybe the hiss and maybe we and the hiss are actually allies.
Right. And I'm not saying on the morality side. I'm just saying that it feels like it makes perfect sense for Dylan to be attacking the board.
Yes.
On behalf of the
hiss. It is weird in the sense that as we are trying to draw faction lines and like who is working towards what and to what end.
Yeah.
The board, the bureau, and the hiss seem like three factions that are all there's like a three-way at odds. Everybody hates everybody wants control of the house. Nobody wants anybody else to be there in the house.
Right. Whereas I think in my head I had it as a 2-way thing, not a 3-way thing, where it's like the board and the bureau as we know it are.
That's what the board wants you to think.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like the board and I think the board and the bureau are both bad.
Oh, and you think the hiss is like the good guys?
I don't like. I think they're both.
I think
they're both liars.
Yes, I think the board is manipulating the bureau to do its ends.
Right. So I think the board, as much as you want to call sides, I feel like the board and the bureau are combined in what they want. Whereas I feel like the hiss.
I think they have been in the past, but Jesse is like Northmore went with the board. Northmore and Trench were like, yes, board, and Jesse is the one who's going to be like, nah, maybe board's not the way.
Yes, if you're when you say FBC, you're referring to Jesse now because there's
only been there's been an FBC for a long time. There's only been a board since since they found the gun since the 50s.
Right.
So there was an FBC and directors passed, but there was no board.
Because the first director was in the 60s, wasn't he?
It was Northmore. I think it was the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
But it was Northmore. They went down to the foundation. They found the nail.
Right.
They went away. They came back. They found the service.
I guess
weapon
we're gonna get into this with
on a pillar.
with the foundation stuff.
It's worth talking about when it comes up.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough to keep motives in line. Totally. I guess.
But the board does not seem to care about you, the director.
Right, but we never got you're right. It's more than speculation. It seems like something is up, but it doesn't seem like a line has been drawn in the sand where Jesse has been like, the board's a problem. We need to deal with the board.
I think that line is drawn in Foundation. I'll tell you where I think that line gets drawn.
Okay.
We see the fake credits. She does all that. She delivers the stuff. Yada yada yada.
Sees all the visions.
Goes to the motel. Find yourself, do one attack on the board. The board overclocks your abilities for the last battle, which is a thing of like, why didn't you guys just do this? And they're like, well, reluctantly, we're going to give you the full power. Here you go. And they seem very reluctant. Jesse tries to cleanse Dylan after you fight through this thing, and he goes into a coma. The portal's been closed. This is the end of the ending cutscene of the main game. Portal's been closed. House still in lockdown because the hiss are still inside. So she's working with the plan with her team. They gotta track them all down. Some dialogue.
Your reason to keep playing.
Yes.
Some
dialogue you can get after the main campaign wraps up. We learn that the HRAs all went out when Hedron broke. But the HRAs are now relaying a new source of resonance, which is Jessie herself, or Polaris in Jessie. There is a side mission with Kojima, which I totally missed until AWE.
Yep,
there is a side mission in the Extrasensory Labs. Guided Isolation, it's called, where you go into an isolation tank and I wrote it down, Takui.
Yes, which you find a lot of paperwork about how he was selling, I think, like hypnosis tapes.
Yes.
That would help you like get over like smoking or whatever it was. And it said, and saying that even when he just talked to you, you seem to be under some sort of power of suggestion.
Yes.
And he was also being considered for a prime candidate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, shit. He was one of the Ps. But yes, if you go into the extrasensory lab, you can go into the tank, and the Japanese VO is literally Hideo Kojima.
Yes.
And
God bless him.
Yeah, get some English kind of going along with it. It's a neat little thing that I did not know existed. Also,
Nope, me neither.
the breakable walls that show up in AWE, they're in the game from the word go.
I feel like
they're in the base game.
I feel like I broke through some walls in the base game.
They're always behind a portrait of a broken wall, it turns out.
Huh.
Did not know that. Foundation DLC. See how we're doing for time. Oh, yeah, we'll be okay. AWE is actually pretty fast. Foundation DLC. The hotline rings. Board says there's a crisis in the Foundation. They've opened the door there. You got to go save it. You go back down to the crossroads. The carving you found there takes you to the Foundation now, which looks like a threshold with it's got red sand, red iron flakes. And we learn that the first group into the Bureau, they found the Bureau, and then they found the Foundation, and they immediately all went down to the Foundation, or not went down to the Foundation, but a massive house shift pulled I don't know how a bunch of them down to the Foundation. Something that never happened. It's like too big to be a regular house shift.
Right.
Everybody comments on it because like a shift is like a room or two. This was a whole section of the house. Something, the board maybe, pulled everyone down into the Foundation and trapped them there.
Nice.
And that was 1 week after Ashes, who is Northmore's son, Trench's
a lot
son?
about Ash here.
Northmore's son.
Northmore's. I don't think it's Trench's son.
No, yeah, I think he's Northmore's son. Because Trench is the director who is always giving him shit.
Right.
Ash, they found the Foundation 1 week after his father's burial, who apparently had been spending his whole life looking for this, and he's like, oh, what a weird coincidence. There's no coincidence.
Just not Northmore's son then. Northmore is in the power plant.
I think it's Northmore's son.
Then he wouldn't have had a funeral, right? Unless they fucking had a funeral.
No, you're right. No, you're totally right. You're totally right. It must have been before Northmore. Who's the director before Northmore?
There is another one.
Let's just see here. Control.
Because Trench, Northmore, and one more is the only three I can ever remember, and I can't remember one of them.
Trench, Northmore. His name was also Ash. I know. Ash's dad is also Ash.
I can't remember.
Let's see. Control. Again, the game is called Control, which is really hard to find. But
Control directors.
Control director wiki might give me that. Yeah, director for the bureau.
I kick myself when I hear it.
Theodore Ash was the first one. Yeah, okay.
Theodore Ash was the first one.
Oh, his last name is Ash.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why they have the same name.
Director Ash. Okay. Right. And it was in unknown to August 64 was when Ash died. So 64 was when Northmore found the service weapon.
Right.
So yes, he came down to or they were sent to the Foundation because you're just finding these recordings of his. Marshall calls Jesse on the hotline. Jesse goes, "Ooh, that must mean she's dead."
I only heard of the Foundation when I became head of operations. The very bottom of the oldest house. Director access only. Just the name alone is classified. Zachariah gave me a tour the day I was promoted. Said I should see it for myself, to understand. After that, I snuck down on my own from time to time to keep tabs on the place, and on them. But nothing ever changed down there. Not even the walls. It's solid, permanent, different from the rest of the house. Of course, they were always watching me. I never stayed long. I'm not stupid. I have to stop the hiss from finding this place. I'm the only one who can.
Talks about how she snuck down here with a back door that not even they know about. Doing something. For some reason, while the board is preoccupied with the hiss, she says she snuck down here to deal with the nail. I'm not really sure why she wants to keep out of the board's sight yet.
Right.
And there are also cave paintings we find all over. That shows what looks very much like the board over some people with a director, a big person, little people. We find some later that have former and people above it and the pyramid above them all. And we learn through the recordings, though these drawings look old, Ash has carbon dated them, and they indicate that he is actually older than the cave drawings somehow. Somehow the cave drawings are younger than Ash himself, who's down here. And we later learn that he himself is drawing them in his sleep. He's not sleeping well.
Yes.
When he's been, quotes, not sleeping well, he is sleepwalking and drawing these cave drawings himself.
That's fucked. But hilarious.
Yes. Jessie sees a person who she thinks is Marshall in the Foundation. Chases her. Ends up going to the astral bleed. We see some astral constructs who are, we learn later, Former's agents, Former's boys. And they fight the hiss. The astral constructs do not fight us at this point.
Right.
Jesse finds Emily in the Foundation. There's a little bit of confusion. We talked about this earlier. As to how Emily came
Even the
down
astral
here.
spikes will fuck up the hiss in the main game.
Will they?
Yeah.
Do they seem like they intentionally go for him, or just like if the hiss get in the way? I guess the spikes never go for you.
Yeah, no, I feel like there were times where I was far enough away that I wasn't drawing the astral spike.
Yeah.
And I was just watching through a doorway. You know, the astral spikes, you could always tell the gamified like line usually in a doorway where the spike would just like forget you're there because you're like, it's out of my level now.
Physically can't fit through this door.
Yeah,
I'm good.
But you'll like watch, if you watch it, it'll physically go after the hiss.
Even further lending credence to this. I totally missed that in the base game. They have that synchronicity talk about how'd you know how to get down here, whatever. We find that the nail is broken. The board has told Jesse to fix it by opening 4 locks in the astral plane. When we touch the nail, we get a flash of the Founder. Very briefly, just Founder, and then we're shown the board. The board gives Jesse 2 abilities to choose from. Tells her she can only take 1. She can have the grow crystals or shoot crystals, whichever you want. We find a document about ley lines, where Ash wonders if the nail is the heart of the oldest house or an intrusion into that heart. and Ash himself becomes very obsessed with the nail, even going so far as to build his own mini nail in his secret lab.
This is young Ash?
Yes.
Yeah.
Later, Ash tells us the Foundation was discovered when a massive shift brought the house down. We learned that. Where they discovered the nail. The next day, they discovered the service weapon. It appeared in front of the nail.
Yes, I remember that.
It was a lure that someone like Northmore couldn't resist, they say. Seems very much a hook to draw in Northmore. Because
Northmore likes guns.
He's
or
obsessed
whatever
with
the
power.
service weapon was.
Obsessed with power. He probably wanted all the objects of power.
Yes.
We find the reel-to-reel camera down in the Action Max camera down in the basement, where you get to do a Swift platform starring Jesse Faden.
Yes, that's fun. Well, yeah, that's fun.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's neat. There's a little bit about Blessed Pictures in there, who somebody who's using this camera for filming, filming. There's a very common theme that we're going to get into with Blessed Pictures and the creation of objects of power. So to kind of get ahead of myself, it seems that Blessed Pictures created the object camera of power.
Right.
In the write-up, you read that they were filming, someone died, it created these films, and presumably someone dying on the film is what changed it into an object.
And this is kind of the first time they mention it, but not the last, because they do the same thing with the fucking AWE train, the Eagle. Where they don't talk in the main game, unless I missed it, about... Do they talk about it in the main game? About death creating AWEs?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Brandon.
Yes. Teach me, Matt Eads.
I'm so glad you asked.
Not AWEs, altered items.
Okay, it's on the bottom of the next page. Jesse finds the real camera. Oh, hey, perfect. We're right there.
Boom. It's like I knew. Like I read the notes before the show.
Yep, Jesse finds the real camera. Blessed Pictures. Who we learn are a paracriminal, or we hear about paracriminals in the
It's
AWE.
a great word.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna do the best I can here. Chester Bless.
Chester Bless.
He's allegedly a man.
Yeah.
Blester. He's allegedly a man. Bless, or the Blessed Society, or Blessed something, has been associated with a lot of AWEs and creation of objects of power. Chester Bless is first mentioned in the surfboard documentation.
Okay.
The altered surfboard. He was a public speaker, and he talks about his thing is, I'm sure I wrote it down, because in the surfboard document, his speaking tour is called The Power of the Board.
Okay.
Which, at first, you're like, oh, the surfboard, of course. But we know of another board.
Yeah.
And their power. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Blessed Productions was then used filming the camera when the actor died, and they tracked the cameras and the VHSs back to a P.O. box to Blessed Productions. The radio show, American Overnight, was at one point sent the fondue set, which turned the producer of the show to... It was an altered item, an object of power, possibly, that turned the producer to ash. It vaporized her to ash, after which the FEC contained it. A P.O. box was traced back to Blessed Productions, where that fondue set came from. There is some relation with an altered item or an object of power and people dying, and that changing or altering or making something. There's some... Death has some link with these things, or trauma, or...
But is it all altered items, or is it specifically altered items that Blessed Pictures has some finger in?
Seems to be specifically items they have a finger in for now. You remember the jukebox from Expeditions?
Yes.
A mysterious company named Blessed Repair and Service changed out the CDs the day before the jukebox AWE. The one CD they put in was called A Song for the Others.
Yes. It plays while you're going on your expedition.
That's right. Who are the others? So glad you asked. I'm going to go back to that 665 thing that the board says earlier. Darling says 665. The code is 665. Neighbor of the Beast. Horns. Even before I read this, in like Christian allegory, neighbor of the beast could mean a lot of things, right? It could, the beast means the devil, obviously, in Christian allegory.
666.
Neighbor of the beast could mean, something associated with the devil, right? Could mean something evil, but it could also mean the opposite, right? The opposite of the devil.
Sure.
Something that is maybe blessed. The board says, and this is a weird one, where you think they're trying to teach you about how the objects work, but they say, this whole call goes, objects of power are holders /665.
Yes.
Next line. To the others /blessing. This is a song for the others. Plus, we've also heard the board only ever says blessing this literally one time. We hold the reins /law. We are failing at translating hyperreal concepts. Secret /instructions will be lost. Ignore this message. It ends with "ignore this message" in a very unboard-like way.
Yes.
Where it very much seems to indicate that, or you can maybe infer that Chester Bless is likely an agent of the board, even though he's working apparently against the FBC. We're not really sure what his purposes are.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's very much working with the board, if not the board itself, if not an agent of the board.
Right.
Like the 665 is too. Why would the board say 665? Like it's far enough away from that thing that you would.
And blessed.
And
it's not a thing you would ever say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might say like, oh, the objects have they have powers, they have blessings. Maybe is that that's how you're loosely supposed to surface level interpret it. I think,
right.
But it very much the neighbor of the beast, Chester Bless, all the blessed stuff, the board referring to them by name. Seems involved, and we learn more and more and more that the board is maybe someone not to trust. Jesse, by the end of this, is like, we're onto the board, but we're not going to let them know that. We'll strike when they least suspect.
Yes.
Jessie touches the carving. She sees Former the first time, who gives her a cryptic message. And basically, you just get pieces of it. It's like, help, out. You can't really make it.
This is the founder?
Yes.
Who the fuck's a founder?
The big eyeball dude. He's got one big eye in his head that like spins around. He's got a bunch of...
That's not the former?
The former. Sorry, did I say founder?
Okay.
Pardon me.
Yes,
Former.
yes. Okay,
former.
good.
I'm sorry.
We're on the same...
We're in the foundation.
Now I'm less confused.
Yeah, sorry. I might have done that a bunch.
Yeah.
We learned that Northmore ordered everyone out of the Foundation after he found the service weapon. He kind of went on this rant declaring every director before him a fraud. The board made him a director. He's the only one, including Ash's father, all this. And we learn later that the board...
It's like there's been a lot of directors before him, though.
I think there have been before Ash. I think the FBC goes back. We just don't have...
I thought directors specifically... I thought I read somewhere directors specifically started in like 60 whatever.
Well,
but I might be wrong.
The service weapon only showed up in the 68, so like the true director,
right.
The one who
I thought there had only
the...
been one director before the service weapon showed up, but maybe there's been tons. Yeah.
Well, maybe you're right because it only lists on that wiki. It only lists
on the back
Ash.
on the back wall of the in the boardroom.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot, but I wasn't sure if they were all directors.
I sort of assumed they were.
Yeah.
Because there's a picture that has, it's like covered. Once you die, once your directorship is done, I assume your picture will go up in the covered one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But there are a lot.
Yeah. So maybe you're right. Maybe there's been directors since the board.
Yeah.
Or since people discovered the oldest house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, Northmore claims them all frauds, and he says everybody out of the Foundation. We learn later the board tells him to get everyone out of the Foundation. Okay. And he has several letters with Ash where because Ash stays against orders. Ash stays and hides in the Foundation and makes this mini nail and talks to Former. Mm-hmm. But Northmore and him have several letters about how by staying down there, you're saying you know better than me and better than the board, which is impossible. Yada yada yada. Like Northmore very much makes it clear the board has final say. Whatever the board says, do it. Board.
And it seems like the former.
Yes.
When we're talking about our three-way fight, I don't know what the former wants.
I think I might.
Okay.
So
we get into that. Let's get into that now.
Yes.
Okay.
We're kind of leading. It's going to very naturally lead into that. Ash says he is staying behind in research to build something that is equal parts talisman and technology.
Okay.
We never really learn exactly what that means because we know he invents the power packs, those battery things. He invents the control relays. He's talking about the mini nail. If you get all the cards and enter the secret lab, you find the mini nail, which turns out that is what he's staying to make.
Yes.
In his recordings, he says, Adam and the other id have shown me numerous inverted triangles on the cave walls. The id, this is fascinating.
It's got to be former.
The id are astral constructs.
Yeah.
The id, because Emily later is like, well, we used to call them id. We'll just call them astral constructs. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Or astral mimics or whatever she calls them. But yes, it must be Former's astral constructs. Because the only astral constructs we've seen that aren't hostile are Former's boys.
Yes.
And the fact that one of them has a name, Adam, and the other id that are both talking to Ash and showing him stuff, presumably through the nail, presumably Former speaking to him through the nail. We're really not sure on that part. But the id showing him things is
the other one going to be Eve?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't actually know. Sin of knowledge. Is Adam is cast out of the garden? Oh, dude. Yeah, it might be. Yes, Former was showing Ash something, and there's a conversation I'm going to get to once we actually meet him. But Former warned Ash about something, warned Ash about the board, and that, I think, is the event that got Former kicked out of the board, that made him into the former member of the board, or whatever, whatever he is. Because we go into the conversation later.
Should have brought a cork board.
Yeah, fuck. I just got too many notes. I just got too many. We'll have to go. We'll have to go through them in order, else I'm gonna get lost here. But
all right.
Don't worry. We're getting to the end.
Okay.
Let's see here. Marshall calls the hotline, says she snuck in the Foundation through the back door. Luckily, the board is as distracted as the rest of them. She went to blow up the nail before the hiss could corrupt it.
Okay.
So she doesn't think blowing up the nail is going to destroy. Is it? Either she doesn't know,
or she totally knows and wants it done,
or it won't cause the astral bleed, and the astral bleed is actually not related to the nail at all, and is just the board being like, you gotta fix the nail because there's mashing the astral plane into our plane or something. As Jesse repairs the second lock, we see Former again. He says, danger, director, board, broken, deeper, understand? And he gives you the second power, which the board is super not happy about.
Wasn't my idea. Blame the eyeball. Former. Yeah, we've had our differences. But it is giving me something you won't.
Former gives you the second power. Board calls. They say you're not listening to them. You are mismanaging the Bureau. They're going to kill you.
It's true.
They're going to do
much
much worse than kill you if you don't. Like, they are just threatening you like children.
Yeah.
The Former then pulls you into a part of the astral plane with no pyramid, where here you can talk to the Former or you can fight him, which is I did not know. First time I played, I talked to him. Second time I played, I fought him. And if you fight him, you get a bunch of dope like combat mods and stuff.
Okay.
If you talk to him, he later sends astral mimics to help you in the Marshall fight.
So it seems like you do there will canonically you do not take the Former's side. It is more
you kind of do. You kind of
even fighting him.
Yeah, even fighting him.
Okay.
I think he just doesn't help you.
Yeah, I talked to him as well. So
yeah, first time my canon playthrough, I talked to him. First he says, "Welcome. Speak."
Hi there. It was nice of you to give me something the board wouldn't. What are you getting out of it?
And Former says, void. Nothing. Egress. Egress means leave. Void can have a lot of meanings, but we know that Former, like the board, is in the astral plane. Seeing it, by the end of this game, with what we learn, we can assume Former wants out of the astral plane. He wants to egress this void that he is in.
Sure.
And
you know, he was just telling us to leave?
No, because the whole conversation goes on after this.
So I'm just supposed to believe you're a particularly charitable, whatever you are?
He says neither. Both. Hungry?
Hungry? I mean, yeah, actually, I'd love a sandwich or something. That's not what you meant, was it?
Former says, right. Panini. Former. Board. Abalone.
Oh.
Abalone is like...
It's a sandwich metaphor.
Abalone is like edible snails. It's like edible seafood. It's it would not high quality food.
Yes.
Panini, nice, crisp, high quality sandwich. Because Jess even said she wants a sandwich.
Yes.
Former says, right. Panini, Former.
Yes.
Former is offering you the sandwich. The board will only offer you abalone. The board will only give you...
Gross.
It looks like food. They're going to tell you it's food. It's not really food.
Yes.
They do not like each other.
Are you part of the board? Or used to be?
Former says once. Split. Board. Blame.
Okay. So you split because the board blamed you for...
And he says, inside, beyond, nail, rescue, house, sun, warning.
Gotta be easier to play charades. Do I need to rescue someone?
As Former says, no.
I don't know what I expected. Listen, this has been great, but I have to go. Thanks for your help, and, stay out of trouble.
Former says, house, listen, nail, leech, burn, go. All right, let's look at those last two sentences. They're very important.
Okay. This feels like school.
Yeah, a little bit. Former
This feels
says,
like you are putting me through school right now.
I'm trying to. Former says, inside, beyond, nail, rescue, house, son, warning.
Okay.
Whose son would he have given a warning to? Whose son do we know?
Ash.
Yes. He's been talking with Ash. We know he has the mini nail.
Right.
He warned Ash something about rescuing the oldest house. Something about the nail and how Ash had to rescue the oldest house.
Okay.
The last line he says, house, listen, nail, leech, burn. You if you have a leech on you, you burn it off.
Right.
Like
So you
the
gotta burn the
nail
nail.
in the oldest house. Yes,
Destroy the nail.
very much the founder paints a picture of the board as this parasite that is latched onto the house through the nail.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, Former warned Ash, like, no, the board is up to some bad shit. And that is what got Former removed from the board.
Do we know why Ash made the little nail?
Presumably to speak with Former. That is presumably how he was speaking with Former and
Gotcha.
Adam and the id. Because when you go down into his secret lab, there is an encoded conversation. Power in here just flickered.
Yes.
There's an encoded conversation. And you find the little mini nail. And the encoded conversation is Ash talking with someone named F, who must be. There's the nail, right? The mini nail right there. It must be Former.
Right.
Let's see here. Astral Blade's getting worse. Jesse does the next lock. The board apologizes. They're like, hey, so we were just kidding earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We decided you can have both the powers. Don't talk to the Former. Seriously. We see another cave drawing of the board above people, Former below. It very much... It could be interpreted as maybe Former raising an army to attack the board, or the board attacking Former with an army of some kind, or like heaven and hell and us between. You can really interpret those a lot of ways. Jesse fixes the nail, finally, and the astral plane she's in starts collapsing. Former, like the whole thing just... Former's like, you gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Board, completely silent. As you're running, it's like this warthog run where the level is collapsing out from underneath you.
Sorry, this is after you destroy the nail.
This is after you fix the nail. You do the
Fix the
last
nail,
lock.
yeah.
The last lock in that sphere that you have to pop the pieces out and make the sphere a perfect sphere again. You can do that 4 times.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you do the
It's all coming back to me.
You do the 4th one of those, and the whole place starts to fall apart. Once you get out, the board calls you and says, how embarrassing, / astral fellows / shades are acting very rude / can't control astral entities, promise / fingers crossed. Very much implying, and also you get the call from Marshall right here saying that she did blow up the nail. Then an astral spike came and broke her HRA. She would bet you a year's pay it was sent by the board. The board immediately sends you a call that says, Astral Fellows / Shades are out of our control when they're not in the astral plane.
Okay. Well, we don't believe that.
Because they say, promise / fingers crossed. They're not very good liars, it turns out.
Yeah. And just disregard this message.
And also, yes, ignore this message. And also... Maybe even they made the plane collapse behind you. It to me sort of read like, because it comes right after that. To me, and Former's the one who's like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
To me, read like, yo, the board just tried to fucking kill us.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you on this line of thinking.
Jesse says as much after, is like, man, fuck the board. She, in her head, in her monologue, the board's like, and she's like, yeah, fuck you too. And then out loud's like, okay. But Jesse's very much onto the board.
Good.
Pope says the nail is a piece of the astral plane, or maybe it contains the astral plane, or maybe both, but it's vibrating at an incompatible frequency with the house, and it's going to destroy both realities. This is where we learn that we drop down to the base of the nail. We learn that Ash has been adding his own drawings to the walls, and we kind of suss out that he's in fact the one leaving them. Marshall on the hotline says she blew up the nail, but the astral spike appeared. Yep.
So hang on, the nail's not blown up.
The nail was, but we fixed it.
Right, okay.
Yep. Marshall blew it up. We put it back
So this
together.
is a message from the past.
Yes.
So is this a correspondent or a hotline call?
It was a hotline call.
Okay.
So maybe it's not. Maybe it's a message from the present or the future.
Right. That's
hard
what I
to
was
say.
trying to figure out the...
It's a hotline call.
Yeah, the time's implication on the hotline.
Yeah, but the hotline calls seem to be in the past. She's like, I blew up the nail. I grabbed every bit of C4 I could.
Yep.
And there's a bunch here about how the board make themselves part of every important process, about how there's nothing that goes on without the board, and Marshall herself does not trust the board also.
Right, and clearly hasn't for a long time, because this seemed to be like objective one from the moment she left you during the main game.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I need to go do something down below in the Foundation. And it was obviously blow the fuck out of the nail.
I tried to get out after the detonation, but the astral spike came out of nowhere. I escaped, but my HRA was damaged. I'd bet a year's salary the board sent it. We never did see eye to eye. They have too much control over Trench, the Bureau, the House. They make themselves part of every important process. Nothing a little C4 can't fix. 2 birds, 1 bomb.
Trench says if the nail ever gets corrupted, it would be the end of the world. I don't know if she thinks about the consequences of destroying it or not.
Right.
And if like that astral bleed is a thing that just happens, or if the board makes it happen to be like, you got to fix that nail. Oh, geez.
So, but it seems like she went down there already pissed at the board. It's not that she got pissed at the board while she was down there.
No, she went down there because the her sneaking down through the back door is she's like, the board is
I
distracted.
wonder if she's had much contact with the former.
I don't know. I also wonder that.
Yes. Because I wonder where she got her I don't trust the board from.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Ash left, if she found something of Ash's. That,
right.
I hope we find out one day. Tremors are getting worse, even though the astral bleed has been stopped. We learn that the hiss has corrupted the nail. Is that next
fixed
page? There's a bit of dialogue here with, again, Ash just shit-talking the board, saying we've been shown the way into the house to help, but we've fallen victim to the same parasite as the others, referring to the board. We find Marshall at the base of the nail, who has been corrupted by the hiss, which explains why the board isn't answering and what's causing the quakes, Jesse thinks. Which is very interesting. With the nail corrupted, the board apparently can't communicate in the house. Jesse fights Marshall, cleanses the nail. Board speaks again, tells Jesse to smarten up and listen to them. Jesse internally says, fuck you, and out loud says, okay.
I need to choose a direction for the Bureau. It should be one that serves our goals, not the board's. Whatever those are. I need to lead my way.
And then we see Former in the Crossroads, outside of the astral plane.
Yeah, that's fucked.
That's fucked.
So, Former is free.
Former's free.
Whatever that word was that said leave.
Yeah, egressed.
Egressed. And then what happens with Former?
He just disappears.
Okay.
No, he like whoosh vanishes down, and you hear a light break. Stone Cold shows up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So moving forward, because a lot of what I want to do for my own sake during this podcast is figure out what's out there for Control 2, or whatever their follow up to this is. And the Former is presumably in our.
He's in the house, I would assume.
In our world now,
yeah. I would assume. Yeah, not trapped where he was anymore.
Right.
We kind of get the sense, at least how I interpret all this, is that Former warned Ash something about the service weapon or something about the board. They trapped Former in wherever he's trapped, his little pocket of the plane, the astral plane, and then you somehow are springing him out here.
Right.
I'm not really clear on the mechanisms of how he's getting out of there, but somehow through this process, Former.
When do you see him? What's the last thing you do before you see him?
Before you see him?
Yes. Something significant?
You just return to the crossroads. Your objective is like return to the crossroads, and you just fly back up to that really dark spot with the like pillars that go ceiling to floor.
Yeah.
And he's just way in the distance, and you see him, and then he goes down.
I wonder what we did. I wonder how we freed him.
I don't really know.
Because we didn't destroy the nail.
We did not destroy the nail. We repaired the nail. I don't know.
Yeah. Somewhere in my head, I'm looking for a reason why.
Maybe Ash's. Maybe the mini nail got corrupted, and there is as I understand it, the mini nail in Ash's lab is how Former is tied to the house, or was anyways, and the nail is how the board is tied to the house, which is how Ash was having his secret Former conversations,
right?
That no one somehow knew about.
I don't know. I want to know why he's free. I want to know how he got freed.
Yeah, there might not be a good answer to that.
No,
that might be one of those like, well, the locks. It's the inverse law of put something in, so something had to come out. Yeah, synchronicity. That brings us to AWE.
Yay!
Which for this one, most of this gameplay, we won't really go through beat by beat, because most of this gameplay is you go to a room, it's dark, you plug the power in, the guy runs, you go to the next room.
Yeah, you're chasing Hartman around.
Yeah,
and you fuck him up. That's pretty much the gameplay.
Done. Yeah.
But the cutscenes.
Yes. It starts with Al calling on the hotline. Alan writes himself in to a distress call to call Jesse.
Darkness engulfed the elevator. there was something there. A presence. Jesse Faden could hear it. A call. It was faint, reaching for her from a dark place. Faden was sensitive to visitations. She had them all the time. From her guiding star and the previous director. She was the perfect receiver. As if she'd been made for this. Faden paused to feel it. The force at play here. It was changing things around her, subtle, trying to make her act. Faden didn't like that. Her guide felt it too. Polaris didn't flare up in defense as with the hiss, so it wasn't all bad. Not a hostile transmission. It was powerful, but it was coming from far away, and made weak because of the distance. It was a distress call. Faden sensed a drowning man, a man desperate to escape. She sensed something else, too. A hunger in the dark, not unlike the hostile resonance, waiting. She knew that desperate acts can have grim consequences. It was this, more than the man's despair, that made her follow the call. The elevator lights winked back on. The darkness receded like a memory. There was a new button on the elevator control panel. Investigation Sector. Faden pressed the button. The elevator doors slid shut with practiced bravado.
Yes, Faden sends a drowning man in a hostile dark, not unlike the hiss. She takes the elevator down to the Ruin Investigation Center where the lights all seem to be off. This DLC is mostly reports.
Yes.
Mostly reports and a little bit of audio.
Lots of reports.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much reading in this, especially like early on. They put like 7, which I was like eating up at this point because I'm like, yeah, give me all the info. And like immediately I was like, the investigation sector. That'd be a fun sector to work in.
Yeah, they're doing like internal investigations down here too.
Yeah,
like his darlings.
It's like a watchdog for the Federal Bureau, but also like sending people out to the AWEs.
They review like, is the prime candidate program ethical? And like, we think it's okay. We haven't found Darling to be in any breach. I'm just gonna hit some. These are from some of the documents.
Yes.
It's worth mentioning that riding down the elevator to the investigation sector, you get a lot of good links. He's like, "What are you doing down there?"
Yeah.
And because he gets a one-way, you have to go to an intercom to talk to him. So he can talk to you, but you can't always talk to him.
Yeah.
So he just goes.
He'll just go.
He has like 25 minutes of dialogue about his cat, about his caretaker who has to pay back for the food for the. He has like a whole thing.
If you got the time for him.
Always. We learned from these reports an agent named Alex Casey from the FBI apparently asked for all the FEC files on Bright Falls. We talked about that a little earlier. The Bureau's been keeping tabs on Bright Falls, but something has been interfering with the monitoring stations there. The person who wrote the report says, maybe it's raccoons. I don't really know. It's fired up 3 times in the last year alone, so something has been increasing at Cauldron Lake.
These are modern reports.
These are very modern, yep. Within the from 2012 to now, most of these reports. We learned that agents Grumman and Morales went missing in Keystone. And there's a little bit of talk of like, well, did they turn, maybe they're working with Blessed now, maybe they went like paracriminal and they left the Bureau.
We had a lot of paracriminal stuff in this one.
Yep. But the only thing they found in Keystone was a strange symbol of 2 overlapping circles with a dot in the middle, which is a motel symbol. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in sequels or whatever. We learn about the paracriminal organization, including the Blessed organization, which we talked a bunch about. And Jesse takes the court to the motel, which is dark. I think this is the first time it's ever been dark in the motel. The lights, it appears to be nighttime outside. She hears/sees Alan in the spiral door, looking to be talking to what appears to be a copy of himself. The other Alan calls himself Tom Zane, which at first you're like, ooh, Tom Zane, that's
That's fucked.
It's supposed to be Thomas, as I know it. He says that because Alan is Tom Zane, the diver. Tom says the diver was just a role he was playing. Tom says he's a filmmaker, an auteur like yourself, Alan. Tom says, you need a drink. Goes over, gets Alan a drink. Says,
so just so I'm clear, Tom Zane is a filmmaker.
Yes.
Thomas Zane is a poet.
Yes.
But Jesse at one point calls Tom Zane a poet, doesn't he?
She says Thomas Zane.
She says Thomas. Okay, good.
She says, I will recite a poem by Thomas Zane.
So they are keeping straight with Thomas is a poet. Tom Zane is a filmmaker.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Although Thomas Zane doesn't seem to exist in Jesse's reality because everyone's like, we don't know a Thomas Zane. We know Tom Zane, the filmmaker.
Right.
Thomas Zane, the poet, doesn't exist.
Where'd you find the poem?
She just read it in her therapy. was one of her therapy tapes. She
I
read
wonder
it.
if she found it in the junkyard.
She might have. There was a box of Thomas Zane's stuff in there. The shoebox with the clicker.
Or it came through one of the windows with the projector.
Ooh.
One of the two. Either one.
interesting.
They're both good guesses.
Yep. Tom gives him a drink and says, which is Finnish for cheers.
Yes.
Which
he's Mr. Door.
He's Tom tells Alan, we found a way to escape. It will work this time. Because you remember Alan Wake, the darkness is constantly fucking with Alan's memories.
Yes. And he's constantly trying to write his way out of it.
That's right. And but he's writing like notes to himself because he's finding the pages of his own manuscript being like, you just have to do this. And he even runs like, I just have to trust the notes. I can't remember why, but I just have to go with it. And yes, Tom Zane says, we found a way to escape. It will work this time. Mm-hmm. And then Tom kind of disappears in a weird thing. A lot of disagreement on who Tom is. He could be.
Sorry, is this the internet discourse?
Yes.
Okay.
I very much, like he says Kippis, I feel like it's Ati or someone who wants us to think it's Ati.
Right.
It could be Mr. Scratch, because Alan even says, I have a doppelganger out there.
Yes.
I haven't seen him, and Alice Wake is seeing Mr. Scratch every night.
Right. But it feels like in this conversation, Alan also does not think this is Mr. Scratch.
That's right, because Tom says, I'm dealing with him. Tom says he's dealing with Mr. Scratch.
We never got an ending to Mr. Scratch and Alan Wake, did we?
What happens in American Nightmare? No, he's still at large.
I did not get past the main game.
I think he's still at large in American Nightmare.
Okay. I would never get past the main game.
Yeah. He later, the doppelganger.
Kippis.
Yes, because we do know there are darkness doppelgangers. We know there's doppelganger Alan. We know there's doppelganger Tom's wife, and we do know there are darkness.
Essage? That might be a different thing.
Yeah, it's the mirror, but that's similar. Shadow Link. Or so maybe Mr. Scratch, maybe Mr. Door, like maybe these weird entities we've heard about.
Sure.
Maybe Chester Bless for some reason. Maybe there's some weird. Whereas who knows? But I mean, it's probably Ati. It's probably Ati.
Ati is the logical guess.
He's on vacation. Yeah. He went to Watery, Washington, which is just
sense.
a fucking stone's throw away.
He said
Kippis. Lake, god of the ocean, right? It's not a lake; it's an ocean,
right?
It's probably
who else
Ati.
could get in there? Who else could go see him?
Maybe Mr. Scratch could. Mr. Scratch is of the darkness.
But
he probably could.
I feel like Alan Wake would know Mr. Scratch.
So do I.
I feel like he'd be able to look at him and be like, "No, fuck you."
Maybe Mr. Door could.
I think Ati is Mr. Door.
I don't know if I buy that one.
Capital G God.
I think Ati and Mr. Door. I think Mr. Door is a mortal who made themselves into a crazy time traveler.
Which
it could
make
be
you a capital G God.
Wait, where am I? Stop it. Diver's
you
just
can never
the
turn Finnish.
Kippis.
We don't know who Mr. Door is in real life, do we? Like, we never saw a picture of a Mr. Door. Okay.
No. There is a Mr. Hatch in Quantum Break who we're assuming is Mr.
Is he Finnish?
Door. No, he's Zavala.
Oh, right. We went through this whole.
Yeah. Al calls on the hotline again and tells us that Hartman dove into the lake like Thomas Zane and Alan before him. The darkness corrupted him, and he was captured by the FBC. And so I've kind of put this in order of events as it happened.
Yes.
This might be as we discovered. Alice Wake visited the FBC because she was getting nightly visitations. She'd been there a few times, right? Interviewed because of the Bright Falls. She came because she's getting nightly visitations from someone who looked like Alan Wake, but was just a screaming ghost.
Right.
Very low, almost 100% Mr. Scratch.
No, yes.
Because Thomas Zane even told Alan, like, no, this is what other people will see of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll get to know him, not you.
Yes.
And when she was at the Bureau, Hartman could sense her and sense Alan through her. She's a conduit. She'd been to the dark place, Alan says.
Mm-hmm.
And it threw him into a rage. He broke out, killing everyone he could. FBC sealed the sector, locked him down. The hiss broke out and changed Hartman to something new. The sound changes the darkness, and the darkness changes the sound. The third thing.
Yes.
Jesse finds this weird anomaly where like the objects are like doing this multiplication illusion thing that she's like, this doesn't look like a house shift, and it does not look like a house shift. We find documents and recordings that label Hartman as a paracriminal, where they're like interviewing him and like, to use your words, your patients had, quote, unnatural abilities or whatever. Like they basically pull this thing over, like, you're under arrest.
Yeah, it's fucking,
which is very good.
Because he got his start like convincing
Thomas Zane to write his wife back to life.
He's like, this guy's got something fucking about him.
Yeah.
We're gonna make him do the thing.
That's right. So they labeled him a class 2 paracriminal. Took all his research. We found a report about an illegal altered item market and a growing underground knowledge of paranatural materials, which I love. That's a thing in the Lost Room where they go to the object like black market and try to track them down.
And this goes, I think, hand in hand with a lot of the stuff. Well, not a lot of the stuff, but you find documents along the way in the main game that say there are more AWEs happening than ever before. There are...
Yes, AW activity is increasing.
Yeah, they give... I can't remember the exact statistics, but they said from 1995 to 2005, we only did this many. From 2005 to 2015, we did exponentially more.
Yeah. Who knows?
The paracriminals are on the fucking prowl.
Could be.
Yeah.
That same day that Alice Wake came to the Bureau for her interview and Hartman broke out, the spiral door appeared in the motel.
Sorry, what day was this?
This was the day that Alice Wake went into the Bureau and Hartman broke out.
Okay.
He sensed Alan and Alice, and he went crazy, and they sealed off investigations.
Right.
They had
Now there's a spiral door.
They had an excursion into the motel that day, and the spiral door appeared.
And we believe, and it's not proven, that the spiral door leads to the darkness.
Yeah, the dark place.
Yeah.
Whatever the threshold below Cauldron Lake is.
Yes.
We get a lot of recordings of agents trying to record video in the motel. It doesn't ever seem to cooperate. We learn about the Eagle Limited AWE, where a train was derailed by Blessed.
I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, creating an altered train car.
Mm-hmm.
A recording of Hartman saying how he thinks he understands the darkness, how the artist draws it to them because of their ability to create. Jessie starts making her way into the AW investigation centers, lighting lights as she does to drive Hartman away. Langston is the voice in your ear and goes on and on about his cat. I've written down.
You talk about the space station, or is that coming up?
That's coming up.
Okay,
that's the
I
frog.
think we did it in opposite order.
Did we? That's the fur. That's the frog.
The helmet with the helmet.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah,
that's
so you can do them in either order. I think. Which I don't know if I knew.
Know that.
I went through the space. I went through the right side of the map.
Yeah,
and then through the left side of the map.
I think I did too. I went Fra Moro and then Eagle Limited and then Bright Falls. I went space, train, finish.
Oh yeah, so if you already did, you're talking about train now.
These are just reports.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah,
I thought we were at the train and I wanted to talk about the space thing.
These are reports that you find. We'll be there right away.
Okay.
These again. This DLC is very hard to turn into this spoiler cast for him.
Yes.
We find several theremin recordings of Langston playing the theremin, which is that weird instrument that you don't touch. It goes.
Okay. I'm just going to freestyle a bit. My mother always said, never talk to strangers. Always. Never. Always. Never. But isn't a stranger just someone you don't know? What if the only thing stopping a stranger from being a friend is that word? Stranger. Strange. Strange like the noises you hear at night when there is no light and you cannot fight. Strange like a rubber duck that follows you around and makes you drop your coffee every time that it quacks because the noise scares you. Then you have to clean up the coffee while the duck stares at you and continues to quack, 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 quack.
He's got several good spoken raps, which are all so good. I'll probably cut one in here for the spoiler cast.
Oh, yes.
Quack. We find a screenplay for an episode of Night Springs written by Alan Wake that lays out the director of the Federal Bureau of Control using the slide projector, letting an entity in, letting the entity possess the director, and then the director shooting themselves. So that right there,
That seems familiar.
That raises a question. That Alan might have wrote Trench shooting himself.
Yes.
We're gonna have a big discussion about what can Alan do and not do probably at the end of this.
Because have we touched on Alan doing, like, he writes the hiss chant, right?
Yeah, that's
later?
That's coming up here.
Yeah.
We get a recording of Langston trying to get the monster Hartman to sign his copy of Hartman's book, which I love.
Very good.
He went down to try to get the big, crazy, darkness twisted thing.
Listen, this is being blown way out of proportion. All that happened is I heard Dr. Hartman had been brought in, and since I'm a huge Alan Wake fan, I thought it'd be cool to get a copy of The Creator's Dilemma signed. That's a book that Hartman wrote about.
We know what it is.
Okay.
We found the Shoom and Shoom 2 machines.
Yeah.
Super long combat mission on that Shoom machine, which fucking sucks ass.
Yeah, it feels like it's not even a combat mission. It feels like it's their attempt at a wave, like a
horde type.
mode, but
Yeah.
it's not long enough to be a horde mode and too long to be a mission.
It's lame. But you can redo the ashtray maze on Shoom 2, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
You find the recording of Brian Hennerman, who did that movie podcast about the camera. Here we are in the Fra Moro AWE, which is the moon crater that the Moonlander landed on.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse lights the room, which puzzles to figure out where the blocks go, how to light up the room. Hartman runs, and we find the shelter with he's just called Fra. The entity that came back, they just call him Fra.
Yes.
So the lander went up with 3 people in spacesuits.
Came back with 4.
Came back with 4.
And no one knew. Like, everyone's like, we always had 4,
Yep.
but no one could say who this 4th person was.
That's right. And it turns out to be just an empty spacesuit, but one that is sentient and can talk.
Yeah.
And gets mad if you take the pieces of it away.
Right.
But it doesn't speak plain English. It
No.
speaks like...
It's... So, every now and then, something just tickles you the right way.
Yep.
Every single...
Gerbil took the
combination.
top head. The mission is called Gerbil took the top head.
Hello! Great about us today. Long roads and no hardly. You are Bygone?
Sure. Why are you locked up in here?
Casual turning. Back and front. And Gerbil took the top head. Not being pressed for that. Lady going and loosing back for eye?
Every single thing this guy said was making me laugh so hard that by the time I was done talking to him, I was literally crying.
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
You can go talk to him on the intercom, and he asks you to find the top head. You can bring him a bunch of stuff, like, maybe he wants pickles or like plants.
His tone is getting increasingly frustrated.
Yeah.
But it's just hilarious because he can't say the right words.
It's all gibberish.
Yeah.
Spider time.
Spider time.
You can't find the astronaut helmet. They'll bring it back to him. You make your way through another light room, another light puzzle room. Hartman escapes. There's a part with the colored wire puzzle. You got a bunch of different things you got to plug the batteries into, unlock all these different doors.
Yeah, a bunch of just like not bad, like more control gameplay.
Yeah, but to describe it on a podcast is completely uninteresting.
Yeah.
You get to the Eagle Limited AWE, which is the train car. You can so the story here is that Blessed, I believe they derailed the train.
Yes, in an attempt to create an AWE.
Yes, I think we heard earlier they wanted to, or whoever wrote the report assumed it was to make a altered train signal, the physical thing that turns the car, I think, but it ended up altering the car, which the Bureau has. You can go in and bind it. You have to put the events in order.
Yeah.
Of like, first it's dinner time, and then the music, and then whatever. This is a little out of order. You can do this whenever, but behind one of the broken wall portraits in the shifted office, this is the uber secret. You find a secret passage to a room with a radio that plays Take Control, the old God song, Take Control. In that room, there's another wall you can break through, which reveals a hidden passage to the clock.
Yes.
If you listen to the clock or use the clock and enter the numbers that you got from reversing the song Take Control,
right,
it opens the floor where you go through and you find a light cord. Takes you to the motel where you find the aerobics mod, which is a very powerful mod. And also you get a call from Alan, who this is basically just like, what did Barry get up to?
The Valhalla Nursing Home. Founded in 2014 for Odin and Tor Anderson of the Old Gods of Asgard fame for their twilight years. Built after the Return Comeback tour. Flip-flopped to be their farewell tour. Cut short. Cancelled. To the chagrin of their agent, Barry Wheeler.
And we learned that Barry managed the Old Gods for a while, Tor and Odin, but he was worried these old men were going to die on him because they were just rocking so hard that he started a old folks home, the Valhalla Nursing Home, and threw them in it and stopped managing their bands.
That's all it was. Nothing plot critical, just a great little side story on Barry, Tor, and Odin.
He's a good man. Because he was worried that Tor and Odin, like Al, he didn't want to have another client die on him like Al did.
Yeah.
So
they rock too hard.
Yeah. And also there's an AWE there in 76 with them where they fight back the darkness. Jesse makes her way to the transit bay. There's another light up puzzle room. Hartman runs. Jesse falls into the Bright Falls AWE. Alan says via the hotline that the darkness is messing with his memory, making him forget the past. He's written himself notes of what to do, but has no context for them. He can only trust the notes to himself. He has to trust the path they're on is the right one. We see we already did that. Jesse enters the motel again, sees the spiral doors open. Alan in it says, I've forgotten again. We had a plan. I know it. He's coming. I've got to get out of here. Dive deeper. Which is something we know Thomas Zane did. Thomas Zane went into the lake and then at some point went deeper into the lake for some reason. And at this point Jesse says, well, whatever's going on with Wake, he clearly needs some help. And then we get Wake right at the beginning.
The story needed many beginnings, many springs, streams that turned into a river, a flood, and then an ocean. This was one. Wake used the materials he had, the connections he had, the people, the places. Wake put them in to make it true. His wife, the psychiatrist, his city. These connections, like magnets, move things. Alice was a conduit. She'd been in the dark place. The thing that had been Hartman sensed her near, sensed Wake through her. Went berserk, broke loose. Wake made sure Alice was already gone by then. Safe. The more springs, the more the story became real. The more people believed. Cause and effect. It was extremely delicate and hard work. It had to go through the path of least resistance where success was most likely. Where there was a connection already. Wake felt the pressure grow in his head. Going mad. Wake had to escape. Right. His escape. He was already out. He wanted to make it true. Wake needed a hero. A hero needed a crisis. For the part in the story about the government agency, Wake needed something special, something to convey an alien force mimicking human intelligence. Something that can't be translated. Translated. Wake channeled Burroughs and Bowie. He cut up sentences and words. Orange peel. You are home. Insane. He put them in a shoebox. He pulled out the words. Wake created a Dadaist poem. He'd try anything once. Or had he tried this before?
It very much implies that somehow, like Alan, we know Alan can only nudge events, right? Alan has to use things that exist in the real world. He has to mostly use things that are real for the most part. He can only kind of, like he says, magnets that move things. He can only nudge events.
Yes.
It very much sounds like he didn't create the hiss. He didn't create the resonance, the opposite of Hedron.
Right.
But he did create the chant, it sounds like. The way he talks about it, he literally gave something to convey an alien force mimicking human intelligence. Something to give the hero versus villain. Give this protagonist-antagonist relationship for Jesse.
Right. So he's implying that just the speech and not the hiss's actions is what did this?
Is part of what nudged things just so.
I guess what I'm asking is he implying that the hiss chant is what made the hiss try and take over and spread?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
The hiss was always going
to
to
spread.
Yeah.
And we are to believe that the chant was enough for everyone to view them as an enemy?
Yes. As this hostile force that had to be...
I don't... like. They're still doing... from a human point of view, terrible things. They're killing people.
They are, but we've always heard that they're the better option. We don't know what the alternative is, right? There's like, oh, the hiss is the better option. Or Hedron is the better option.
Maybe something terrible would happen to people if the hiss didn't kill anyone.
I'm very much with you, where... Yes.
I would be a little more intrigued if there was more in that made me suggest that Alan Wake made the hiss an enemy or something that compelled Jesse to fight back against them in a way that I don't buy that the chant is that thing.
Wake needed a hero needed a crisis. For the part in the story about the government agency, Wake needed something special, something to convey an alien force mimicking human intelligence, something that can't be translated. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wake channeled Burroughs and Bowie. orange people.
It feels
you
like
are
the
home.
chance not enough for me.
And it's also very much like it's chicken egg, right? Does Alan really write these things? It's the Alex Casey thing. Did Alex write Alex Casey into existence, or did Alex write Alex Casey because Alex Casey already existed? Right. Did he write the chant and that made it exist, or did he write the chant because the chant already existed?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very. I don't think we're gonna get. I don't think we're gonna get good, solid, firm answers from AWE.
I didn't love the ending of AWE. I did like. I'm excited for more of this story.
Yeah. We're right there at the end right now.
Okay.
Anyways,
well, you can wrap it up.
Yeah. Anderson, Jesse lights the room, defeats Hartman, tries to make Langston the head of investigation. He refuses. He says, "I've seen what happens to your head of investigations. Respectfully, I will decline." And the game closes with an AWE report from Bright Falls, but it must be a glitch because the dates are wrong. Therefore, quote, "a couple years in the future." Maybe enough time to develop a sequel, and no sequel should be getting through. No signal should be getting through because they're in lockdown. They shouldn't be getting this notification. But we know Alan wrote it because we see a thing. If the alarm is real, then the reason for the alarm must be real as well. And we'd learned that Agent Estevez is on site. Last word from Alan.
Things set in motion. If the alarm's true, then so is the reason for the alarm. The effect must follow the cause. It's happening again. A return. You have been warned.
An ending. I want more.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I felt like there was a hook here somewhere that would have left me being like, I fucking need more control now. Yeah.
And this didn't quite find it.
It'd be very uncontrol for them to put a neat little bow. It'd be very unremedy.
I don't think I wanted a neat little bow, but I wanted, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you could just
Alan needs help. It seems like we're going to get Al out of the dark place.
Totally.
Alan Wake 2 or Control 2.
Right. Or you never hear from Alan again. Because that is also the nature of this game, where it's like, I don't know. Like,
in regards to like what did Alan write into it? Did Alan write this whole thing into existence to get himself out of the lake? Did he create the entire?
If he can only nudge it sounds like probably not.
I think he can only. Well, we know he can only nudge it from the game.
He can't create a whole.
Right, and like
he creates. He has created people.
Yep.
So he could have created Jesse.
Has he like whole claw? Well, again, we don't know if he created them or if they existed, and that's how he. Right. It's the Alex Casey chicken egg.
Right.
Very like the when he says if the alarm is true, then so is the reason for the alarm. Like, kind of for me sums up the whole. It's like Outer Wilds. What's this one we love? Wilds.
The Outer Wilds. Yeah.
It's like Outer Wilds. It's like anything quantum, right? Schrodinger's cat. How it is both alive and dead.
Yes.
If the reason for the alarm is true, the alarm must be true. It is this like weird metaphysical. Things can both be true and not true in the oldest house at the same time.
Right.
But it still makes sense in a way. There's still like a loose logic to it.
Yeah.
Where, I'm sure Alan made his share of this happen, but also the things in the world influenced him in a way. Ouroboros, right? The worm through time, a snake eating its own tail.
Right.
There is no beginning, no end.
Well, and it's so hard to put yourself in, like, what is Alan seeing? Like, is he seeing, does he know these events are unfolding, or is he just writing them?
It seems like he doesn't, right? Because in Alan Wake, his memory keeps getting fucked with, and in this, he even says, like, the darkness is making me forget. I can't remember. All I have are these notes that I wrote myself. I just have to trust them. And he keeps telling himself, like, we had a plan. I'm sure we did. It's going to work this time.
Right.
It didn't work last time, but this time it will.
And something is clearly chasing him.
Yep.
In the darkness.
Yep. Be it the darkness himself.
Right.
Or
because he needs to keep getting out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We did not. I thought this was going to answer some questions about Alan Wake, but it did not.
No.
It did not.
No, it seems
very
like
much...
it's a bridge to another game.
Yeah.
I hope, at best. But yeah, I was looking for something. And I think a bow is not what I was looking for. But
it did not give any closure.
Yeah.
Did not give any closure at all.
Is that thing you just know?
It
like I put it down and I'm like,
for me, it very much tied Alan to Control in a way, right? We're like, oh, whoever that is, maybe that's Ati is there, and now okay, we're gonna go help Alan in the next expand. Oh, who knows? But yeah, we did not get any. I thought we were gonna get more information on like the stuff they set up in the Foundation with the board and founder and all that, but like, nope. Yeah, see you in the next game.
Yeah. So it was by no means bad, but it was you thought it was going to at least end some sort of arc because it's the last thing that happens in Control. You think it's going to, like, something was going to happen, whether like Jesse, like something terrible happened in the house or something like what's next? All we have is we're going to hopefully going to save Alan Wake.
Yeah, there's an AWE in Bright Falls. Right, that's all we know.
But I don't know if I wanted like some big cliffhanger where it's like, oh no, we see what the next baddie is. Yeah. Or
because like the lockdown is still on. We haven't got the hiss out of the house yet. Right. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah. So and I guess they always like that will never get lifted for the same reason the Mongolians are still on Tsushima. They need me to be able to play that game after I beat that game.
And two, they might lift it. I think we might. I think we might see a standalone thing like American Nightmare. I totally think we might see some sort of not full sequel, standalone Alan Wake thing.
Yeah,
American Nightmare 2 or something.
They make it like it seems like they figured out how to make a good video game.
Yeah,
or a like the combat is not the best part of Control.
It's the best Remedies ever
but
made.
It's the best Remedies ever made.
Max Payne's.
Max Payne's pretty good. Max Payne was great for the time.
Yeah, they didn't do Max Payne 3 though.
Yeah,
they only wanted to.
Now that they found that, then it's like you can put out Alan Wake 2, and I at least know that it will kind of have a standard of gameplay.
Yeah. And they've said as much, like Sam said on their blog post, like the last few years of our studio, we were just getting ourselves in a position so that we could make more Control.
Yeah.
And now that we're in that position, we're looking forward to making more. And he's like, I'm not saying there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
But we're looking forward to making more Control.
Right.
Yes. So yes, very much sounds like they're
like the continuing universe of Control.
We have this engine and this tech now, and hopefully we can get some games out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they do.
Oh, I can't wait to know what comes next. Love it. I even love the like dissatisfaction it leaves me with. That is so fucking Control and Remedy.
That's one little, like, it's not even a bad thing. It's I didn't get closure.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily a terrible thing. It was not what I expected.
Yeah, me nothing.
They have a plan, and maybe we'll play Control 2 or Alan Wake 2 or whatever the sequel to both those games is called.
Yeah,
and be like, oh, it's fucking. No wonder they didn't fucking change it any other way. Yeah. But, I mean, it all goes back to you and me are positive, think of the possibilities people.
Hell yes.
Until it falls flat.
Here.
Like a Game of Thrones or something.
Death
You're like,
Stranding.
That didn't go so well.
Yeah, we had a few questions on the Discord. I think we're going to wrap this one up because it's been going pretty long. One we can do real fast here is, do you consider Control a horror game? I think Max City wrote this. I think it was Max City said, like, a lot of his friends don't play because they think it's a horror game.
I think
we had this conversation with Andy even.
AWE was
horror
the scariest part of Control.
Yeah, but even that was
that was fine.
It's if you're in the dark, Hartman attacks you, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah, like it's not 20% of Resident Evil.
No.
Like it's.
I would not consider this a horror game.
No,
at all.
Not at all.
It's like, I think exactly what I said to Andy was, would you consider Nightmare at Christmas a horror movie? And I think he said yes.
Right.
But unless you at home would consider.
No, you guys were talking about Nightmare, that Nintendo Nightmare 2 game.
Oh yeah, you're
whatever
right.
it was called.
I would put Control in the exact same thing as maybe even a step back from what I think Little Nightmares might be.
I think Little Nightmares.
Scarier.
As someone who's yes, me too.
Yeah.
As someone who's only seen the trailer for Little Nightmares 2, that looks scarier than anything I saw in Control.
Yeah, Control's not scary. It's weird, but it's like
it's weird.
It's interesting weird. It's not like unsettling weird.
Yeah, and it's all like chalked up to a science, and nothing's.
And it's like
I'm not kidding. Hartman is the only like creature.
Yeah.
That looks even off-putting. Really,
the mold, maybe, but even then,
I guess
like,
the molds are like little zombies, I guess. But
yeah, definitely not a horror game.
No, do not play that because you're worried you'll be scared.
No, there's one. The only time I ever got spooked is one time you pull the cord and Dylan's face goes right in yours. I'm like, oh, fuck.
One time you're in the elevator and the elevator opens and you see the fucking dude walk. The Hartman dude.
Oh yeah.
Walk by the crack. That scared the shit out of me too.
Yeah, that was a good one. He tries to get in.
Is there more questions?
The only other one was like, if you could learn, I think this was maybe also from Max, if you could learn any more about one item, which would it be? But I don't think we're prepared to. I'm not prepared to. The anchor. Did we ever learn what the anchor did? Remember the anchor was?
Yeah.
Well, I know we fight it.
It creates a black sphere
that rusts metal.
I think it just destroys anything. So I think with the metal, it was rust. But it took that whole fucking ship down.
Yeah. And then when they moved the anchor, the sphere moved.
Right. And then we fight the orb anchor.
Oh, yeah.
And it shoots the fucking bits at us.
Yeah. Did you see the jukebox, by the way?
Yeah. What about
it? Did you see the altered item jukebox in AWE? You read about it. You read about a jukebox that has whatever the user desires inside, and at some point in combat, a jukebox was like fly through the combat, and if you chase it down and shoot it, it drops a bunch of like really good combat materials.
Like not a jukebox,
a vending machine. Sorry,
yeah,
a
okay,
vending
gotcha.
machine.
Yeah. I was thinking of the jukebox
for snacks.
Yes, jukebox for snacks. Yeah,
sorry.
I read the information. I don't think I ever saw the vending machine.
Yeah, I saw it just show up in a comment. I'm like, what the fuck was
that?
that?
I was talking to you about chat because they talk about how the news went to check it out, and I was like, fuck, what a day that would have been.
Yeah.
I would have got to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Is there any particular item on the top of your head that you think you might want to? I'm trying to think of
one. Yeah.
It's, balloon,
it's a lot of them. The balloon is cool.
The duck, the swan boats.
Oh fuck! It's like it's not hard because you can't think of anything. It's hard because they're all fucking fantastic.
The fan. I don't think we ever learned what the oscillating fan does.
It blows so hard that it depletes all the oxygen.
Really?
Yeah. So people fucking died with that one too. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And this was totally off the cuff. I knew we'd be going a little bit long. I didn't think we'd have too much time for questions, but
these are the things like
there's just any one that sticks out in your mind.
Like these are the things I love talking about with Control.
Totally. And I'll go back and read these wiki entries 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And if you like this kind of stuff, there is a whole SCP is very much inspired by Control was inspired by all that stuff.
We a little shout out to The Lost Room as well.
That's the TV show of Control. Has like might as well Control might as well be that show, the game.
Yes.
Has a fucking motel, has a weird organization, has paracriminals. Fuck, it's so good.
That's really good.
Check that out on I think it's on Prime
Surprisingly
Video.
bad acting.
Yeah, it's very low budget.
Yeah.
It's like 2006 or something.
Yeah.
Lost Room is the name of that. 6 episodes, very short. I think we'll wrap that. That was a lot of talking about Control here.
Mm-hmm. As much as we needed.
Yeah. Too much power and Control to feel scared. Yeah, that's a good. Alex in the chat says you're way too. It's like this power fantasy.
Yeah.
You're flying, just
fucking
chucking forklifts, and the multi-lift, multi-launch is very cool. We can hold 3 items at the end.
And if you're feeling scared, just turn on that fucking one-hit kill.
Yep, and you can turn invincibility on if you want.
Yeah,
that combat stuff is really good. It's good shit. Brandon Lynch, thank you very much for sitting down here talking Control with me.
You're welcome.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
This is a very good game.
Yeah, there's a lot of interpretations. If you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Write them into me, podcast@talkingreckless.com. I might do a supplemental to this. If enough interesting stuff comes in, I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I might record a thing on my own of just some of your theories. So write them on in podcast@talkingreckless.com. You can drop on our Discord. You can find me going to Talking Reckless. Check out our Patreon if you want to support this Spoilercast and the D&D podcast, all the stuff we do. Find that, patreon.com/talkingrecklesspodcast. Forgot I was looking at the wrong camera this whole fucking time. That's going to do it, Brandon. Thank you very much for joining me.
I like the pencil. When you tap it, it makes money.
That's from the Lost Room.
Oh, okay.
That's not from Control.
I can't remember anymore.
And if you combine it with the watch cooks an egg. If you wrap the watch around an egg, it cooks the egg.
Right.
But if you ever combine the pencil and the watch,
something else happens.
Something terrible happens.
Yeah. I was happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for joining me. I need help. Thanks so much for listening. Very likely not the last you've heard out of me on Control or the Control-averse, whatever comes next. We'll see you then.